Chapter 1877. That was how Tianyun wanted all the star apostles to see him and know that he had saved them. Only in this way could his words carry weight. What's going on? When the supervisors saw Tianyun flying over, they were stunned for a moment. Why did an expert suddenly appear? Was he sent by the higher-ups? Sir, what brings you here? One of the supervisors came over with a smile and tried to please Tianyun. However, what greeted him was a void punch that smashed him into meat paste. One punch killed him directly. For Tianyun, the cultivation of a Star Master was as easy as killing a chicken or a dog. It's an enemy. The supervisors shouted and asked for backup. At the same time, they started to run into the mine to avoid being attacked. There were no special arrangements in the mine, which meant that there was no defense. Once an enemy came, it would fall immediately. The main thing was that this mine was not a key area. There were many ores, but they were very difficult to mine. Robbers would not be so stupid as to rob the mine, right? This was the interior of the Empyrean Terminus Ancestor Land. Invading the mine would be equivalent to becoming an enemy of the Empyrean Terminus Ancestor Land. Therefore, they did not bother to set up any big formations. Everything was open to the public, which allowed Tianyun to come in easily. No one stopped him at all. There were only some guards outside, who prevented some unknown cultivators from coming in. When he came in, he killed all of them. Everything was done quietly. Die. Tianyun witnessed the cruelty of these supervisors, and naturally, he won't hold back. He quickly swung his palm from the void and killed all the supervisors who were trying to escape. In the blink of an eye, dozens of supervisors were all killed, which made the Star Apostles dumbfounded. The supervisor who had been arrogant to them was killed in the next moment. So powerful. What kind of power is this? They all looked at Tianyun in shock. They all know the power of the supervisor, but they didn't expect that the supervisor couldn't even withstand a single move from Tianyun. So powerful! Dengfeng clenched his fists tightly. As he watched Tianyun descend, his heart skipped a beat. This sort of absolute power was exactly what he wanted. When Tianyun descended, he glanced around and said solemnly, "This place is under my control. You can leave now." His voice spread throughout the entire mine, indicating that they could escape. All the supervisors were dead, so they could move freely. However, none of the miners were willing to escape. Instead, they stood where they were. Not to mention running away, some of them even continued to mine, completely ignoring him. "Sir," one of the Star Apostles stood up and sighed. "It seems like you have saved us, but it is meaningless. Our slave imprints are still there. Even if we manage to escape, isn't it the same? Unless you help us remove the slave imprint, we won't be able to escape." This was a very real problem. It wasn't that they didn't want to escape, but that they couldn't. As long as the slave mark was still there, even if they hid in the most remote area, it would be meaningless. In this mine, they had no less than 10 ways to sneak away. With so many people here and so few supervisors, sometimes they could take advantage of the supervisor's negligence to escape, but it was meaningless. In the end, they were all caught, and the more serious ones were sentenced to death. Over time, they had become numb to it and didn't want to escape at all. Unless the slave imprint disappeared, they wouldn't be considered free. "It seems like you have misunderstood something." Tianyun glanced at them and said indifferently, "I can't remove your slave imprints, but those who can order you must have the corresponding authority. In other words, if you go to some cities, ordinary cultivators won't be able to order you. Even in the entire city, there aren't many who can order you." "You mean to say that you want us to go to those cities and take revenge?" They were all stunned. Wasn't this equivalent to using them as weapons? Revenge was revenge, but in the end, they would be killed. Some of them didn't want to die, and they really wanted to continue mining. They wanted freedom. After all, no matter what, this was a glimmer of hope. Naturally, they didn't want to give up. This seemed to be the best for them, but the result would be the worst. You can say that, but I'm not asking you to kill the civilians, but to completely annihilate the guards of those cities and let those cities fall. Ordinary city guards and captains can't order you around. Unless they are at the level of the city lord, or have special orders, they can't order you around. Tianyun looked at them and said in a deep voice, "The reason why I want you to do this is very simple. It's to create chaos. The more chaotic it is, the better. It's best to attract all the elders and higher-ups here." "Attract them here for what? Don't tell me you want to kill them all?" One of the star apostles stood out and shook his head. He felt that Tianyun was very childish and laughable. He wanted to single-handedly fight all of them? "That's right, just like that. Kill all of them," Tianyun answered simply. This answer stunned everyone present. They first fell into a state of silence, but soon after, some people shook their heads and went back to work. They didn't say anything about Tianyun. It was very impressive for him to have such an idea, but it was very unrealistic. "Sir, it seems that you haven't woken up yet, have you? This is the territory of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. You can't just save us with a slap on the head. We know that you have good intentions, but you are simply pushing us into a fire pit." One of the star apostles stood out and said, "If you can't do it, it will be the day of our deaths. You may want to die, but I don't. We still have a lot of things to do. We need to regain our freedom and control our homeland." They all nodded. It wasn't that they were afraid of death, but that they had their own things to do. They didn't want their people to be like them, trapped in this vicious circle. They all wanted to save their homeland. "I've had enough. I'm willing to join in." "I'm also willing to join in. Yes. How long have I been working here? They don't even treat us as human beings. No matter what, before I die, I will eradicate some of them." Some people didn't choose to join in, but others did. This group of people had been driven crazy. They really couldn't stand it anymore. They would rather die than stay here. At this moment, there were 3 groups of people here. The first group had hope and wanted to defend this place to the death to accumulate military merit. The second group felt that there was no hope and wanted to go kill the guard. The last group was a fence-sitter who didn't know how to choose. This situation didn't exceed Tianyun's expectation. It could even be said that it was within his expectations. Then, Tianyun raised his hand, and a crystal projected a scene. "Haha, those fools are really ridiculous. Do they really think that they will be free after accumulating enough military exploits? Don't they know that they will be executed? They have trashy talent and a trashy identity, but they still want to leave this place alive? They have accumulated so much resentment. If we give them freedom, they will only bring trouble to us." "Yes, but they keep thinking that they will be free. They are really a group of fools. They are still working so hard for us. It's really funny. Every time I see their faces full of hope, it's so funny." The scene was of a discussion between several supervisors in a room. Chapter 1878. Tianyun simply showed the scene of the supervisors' discussion to them one by one. After seeing it, all of them fell silent, especially those who had previously shouted that they would persevere and see hope. Now they were silent, completely silent. In their place was a wave of anger that came from the depths of their hearts. In fact, even Tianyun was extremely angry when he heard what they said. To put it bluntly, those who were assigned to this place were destined to die. 1 year, after paying a huge price and accumulating enough military merits, they were killed just as they were about to exchange for freedom. Not to mention that they had done it for nothing, they had practically wasted their lives. After working hard for so many years, they had gained nothing and were even killed. This was very heartless, but it had to be said that it was the most effective way to prevent riots. All of them had been oppressed for too long. If they were really given freedom, would they come back for revenge in the future? The best way was to kill them directly and pretend that they would be given freedom. After they left this place, they would immediately chase after them. In fact, some star apostles had already thought about this problem. Whether the celestial terminus ancestral land would really give them freedom or not, they would not choose to kill them. However, they did not think too much in this direction. They did not want to give themselves too much despair. However, this reality was broken by Tianyun himself. He used a very cruel scene to let them know the cruel reality and break their final fantasies. If the star apostles from the chaotic realm were to come up later, this would be a really sad result. Even if the other forces had minors, at least they would not be so ruthless. This was how ruthless this place was. Those who deserved to be killed would be killed without any mercy. This is the scene that I just recorded. There is absolutely no falsehood in it. Tianyun threw the crystal in his hand forward and said calmly, "It is up to you how you choose. Anyway, I have already passed on the message." After a moment of silence, someone shouted angrily, "Kill, kill, kill! Kill them all, leave no one alive!" The star apostles who had originally harbored fantasies roared to the sky. Their eyes were bloodshot and some even shed tears. They had been mining here for so many years and had accumulated tens of thousands of so-called military merits, but now they realized that all their efforts were in vain. There was no meaning to it. That was the saddest and saddest feeling. What was the point of doing so many things only to be killed in the end? Kill, kill, kill. I can't believe they actually have such thoughts about killing these bastards. Ah, let's fight them to the death. I will perish together with them. That's right, we'll perish together. Even if we die, we'll drag a few down with us. It could be said that their eyes were bloodshot. If they saw the natives, they would not hesitate to kill them, not just the guards. To them, there was no longer anything left to live for. Since they were going to die, then they would kill everyone in the celestial pole ancestral land. No matter who it was, they had to die. Everyone, quiet down. Tianyun's voice rang out, signaling for them to quiet down. Following which, they all quietened down. They knew the truth. It was Tianyun who had told them. They just didn't know what else Tianyun had to say. I'm not asking you to throw away your lives. As I said before, I want you to create chaos to attract those elders, and I'll take care of them all at once. The final result is to flatten the entire celestial pole ancestral land. Tianyun said in a deep voice. Only in this way can I truly free all of you. Hearing this, their expressions became strange. Wanting to flatten the entire celestial pole ancestral land with the power of one person, was this really not a joke? Sir, we know that you have good intentions, but I advise you not to do so. The number of experts in the celestial pole ancestral land is unimaginable. I've seen several stronger ones, such as Elder Si-Ming who manages this mine. He is very powerful and seems to specialize in controlling countless dead souls to attack people. He is extremely powerful. If you don't leave now, I'm afraid he'll rush over. Among them, some star apostles had seen even more powerful ones. They didn't think that Tianyun had any chance of winning. Tianyun was powerful, but they had seen even more powerful ones. Their terrifying auras let them know who was more powerful. That's right, sir, you should leave quickly. We are already very grateful to you for letting us know the truth. That Elder Si-Ming is too powerful. Not only did he kill without hesitation, he also devoured souls sinisterly. He's extremely abnormal. I've lived for so many years, and I'm only grateful to you. Thank you for letting me live a free and unrestrained life before I die. They were all prepared to die. While they were grateful to Tianyun, they also decided to risk their lives to kill the star apostles of the celestial pole ancestral land. I heard that some trash are badmouthing me? A deathly aura descended from the sky and enveloped the mine, giving everyone a feeling of death. It was as if their souls were about to leave their bodies and rush into the underworld river of death. A pale-faced man floated down from the sky. He was holding a skeleton scepter in his hand and 8 skulls were hanging around his neck. He looked extremely strange. His body was filled with a deathly aura. Anyone who got close to him would feel extremely cold, as if they were in the underworld. It's Elder Seeming. Their faces were pale. They initially thought that they could escape and start a massacre. However, it seemed like it was impossible now. How could they escape when Elder Seeming was here? Despair and unwillingness surged from the bottom of their hearts. "Sir, hurry up and run. He's Elder Seeming," one of them yelled, signaling Tianyun to run away. It would be too late if he was too late. How troublesome. I was having a good sleep, but now I have to come out to settle some matters. Where did you come from? How dare you interfere with the management of the celestial pole ancestral land? Elder Seeming said indifferently, "Forget it, I'll first extract your soul and ask you about the situation. Then, I'll refine you into a little puppet so you know where you can come and where you shouldn't." Roar! The 5-colored Emperor Dragon's star Dharma form shot out. Its masculine aura dispelled the deathly aura in the air and filled the place with warm energy, as if dispelling the cold and restoring the feeling of being bathed in sunlight. Unique star Dharma form. Elder Seeming's eyes widened. The giant palm had already landed on him and slammed him into the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. It's really annoying to be chattering on the side. Tianyun looked at them and said indifferently, "Now, are you interested in listening to my plan?" Everyone looked at Tianyun, dumbfounded. Elder Seeming, who was previously known as an invincible legend, was slapped into the ground like a noisy fly. Chapter 1879. Tianyun slapped Elder Seeming to the ground, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The group of people was dumbfounded by Tianyun's move. Previously, they had tried to persuade Tianyun to escape, but now there was no need to escape. Not to mention Elder Seeming, even if there were 1 or 2 more Elder Seeming, he would still be slapped to death. He could kill Elder Seeming with 1 move, and if there were a few more, it would just be a matter of a few more palms. He is so strong? Everyone's eyes widened. They had thought that Tianyun's strength was only not bad, but now it seemed that it was at a heaven-defying level. Elder Seeming, who was like a god, was killed with 1 slap, which was far beyond their imagination. Elder Seeming was a great star master, a top existence, and was in existence with an extremely high position in the celestial pole ancestral land. Indeed, Elder Seeming's position was not bad, and he could be ranked in the top 50 in the celestial pole ancestral land. The top 50 seemed very far, but the celestial pole ancestral land was so big, and to be ranked in the top 50 among so many experts was indeed not bad. In terms of cultivation, Elder Seeming was not strong, and he only had the cultivation of an early-stage Star Master, but in terms of overall ability, he was stronger than an ordinary middle-stage Star Master. Therefore, he could be ranked in the top 50, especially with the Seeming Star, which was a relatively top-notch existence among the 4th-level Star Dharma phases. However, he encountered a unique Star Dharma phase, which was above all the other Star Dharma phases. Crash! Elder Seeming rushed out of the huge pit, surrounded by all kinds of dead souls, and under this palm, he was not injured at all. However, if you looked carefully, you would find that one of the skulls on his chest was broken. After one was broken, there were still 8. It was very likely that these skulls could be used as a substitute for life. When the palm landed, the one who died was not Elder Seeming, but the substitute in his chest. Die. Elder Seeming possesses the Star of Seeming, which allows him to refine the souls of others and turn them into puppets to take the blow in his place. Elder Seeming has at least 8 more lives. This Seeming Star is too terrifying, isn't it? He even gave himself so many lives. How am I supposed to kill him? The Star Disciples, who had been cheering, turned pale when they saw Elder Seeming flying into the sky. Those who were knowledgeable would know how capable Elder Seeming was to have so many lives that it was impossible to kill them all. Oh, you have some abilities. The ability of the Seeming Star is not bad, it can give you a few more lives. You're like a cockroach, you really have to kill a few more times before you can be killed. Tianyun was not surprised to see Elder Seeming flying into the sky. When Elder Seeming came out, his appraisal eye had seen everything clearly. Elder Seeming indeed had many lives, allowing him to take many fatal blows. How dare you compare me to a filthy and lowly worm? I will seal your soul completely and refine you every day. Elder Death Ming roared furiously, and the Nether Death Star behind him rose up. If one were to take a closer look, they would see that it was actually a massive skull with countless vengeful spirits circling around it. Moreover, the wails of those spirits were extremely ear-piercing. The moment the Star of Seeming appeared, the surrounding deathly aura shrouded the area. And you trash, how dare you cheer at the side? I order you to, shut up! The giant palm slammed down, flattening Elder Seeming to the ground and killing him once again. What Star of Seeming! What vengeful souls! They had no resistance at all and were flattened to the ground. I want to see how many lives you can revive. Not only did Tianyun flatten him, he even pressed him to the ground and spun him twice. Extreme flames rose, burning Elder Seeming to a crisp. Ah! Elder Seeming's scream came from below. Shortly after, a soul floated out from a gap at the side. It was originally in a spiritual body, but it quickly condensed back into a physical body. After returning to a physical body, 3 of the skulls on its chest had shattered. Previously, only 1 skull had shattered under the palm. Now, 3 had shattered. This was calculated based on the damage, and it was not really 1 life per palm. Oh, I only destroyed 3 of your puppets this time. Looks like I have to improve it a little. Tianyun smiled indifferently. This guy still wanted to order the Star Apostles to kill each other. Of course, he would not let Elder Seeming have his way. Elder Seeming's face turned pale. Even though the puppets had taken the damage for him, some of the damage had still been transmitted to him. At the same time, it had consumed a lot of energy. What a strong power! I am completely suppressed. Is this the unique power of the Star Dharma form? Elder Seeming felt that he could not resist. He was being suppressed all the time. Shortly after, he looked up to the sky and shouted, I don't believe that I, Seeming, can't deal with a kid. Seeming soul snatching, Seeming Star. The Seeming Star behind Elder Seeming merged with Elder Seeming instantly, turning Elder Seeming into a giant skeleton. This meant that Elder Seeming had a good compatibility with the Seeming Star, which allowed him to use the original form of the Star of Seeming, a giant death skeleton. When it was used, souls continuously emerged from the sky and the ground. These were the souls that had died nearby, and they were all guided out by Elder Seeming. Not only that, but skeletons slowly climbed up from the ground. These skeletons consisted of cultivators and beasts. One by one, they climbed up from the ground and formed an army of skeletons. He was completely enraged. Even if he had to use all his power, he would suppress Tianyun. The Star Apostles turned pale when they saw this. They quickly retreated to the back, not daring to get any closer. Elder Seeming has used the Seeming Star. Once the Seeming Star is used, it won't stop until the soul snatching is done. Can this senior withstand it? He's so powerful. Is this the power of an experienced elder? Even that senior can't match up to such a high degree of compatibility, right? Their hearts trembled and were filled with despair. If Tianyun died, it would be their turn next. Give me the soul. Elder Seeming reached out his giant skeletal hand and grabbed at Tianyun. The giant skeletal hand turned into a black hole, trying to extract Tianyun's soul from his body. At the same time, countless skeletons pounced at Tianyun from all directions. The souls of the dead were like ropes that entangled the surroundings, sealing off all escape routes. The scene in front of them was like hell. You think you can take my soul with your strength? Tianyun sneered. Even the heavens don't have the ability to do so, let alone you. Five-colored Emperor Dragon, activate. Tianyun leaped and instantly transformed into a giant five-colored Emperor Dragon. The domineering dragon power turned into a five-colored ray of light that shot up into the sky. Like a real dragon soaring in the sky, he stepped out of the void inch by inch. With every step he took, the surrounding souls were trampled into ashes. With every step he took, the army of skeletons on the ground was reduced to dust. Chapter 1880. Roar! As soon as the five-colored Emperor Dragon appeared, all the other star Dharma forms paled in comparison. The main thing was that it was extremely domineering and could restrain all other powers. However, Si-Ming's power did not restrain it. After all, the five-colored Emperor Dragon only had 5 elements. There was no light or dark element. If it had the light element, it would be even more domineering. Now, even without the light element, it could still crush it. The level was there, and it was already suppressing the opponent. Boom! After Tianyun transformed into the five-colored Emperor Dragon, he no longer attacked with shadows. Instead, he used his dragon claws to stomp down. With him as the center, all the skeletons and ghosts around him were annihilated, completely purified. The giant skeleton palm that slapped down hit the leg of the five-colored Emperor Dragon, but it did not move at all. At most, there is a faint mark on it, let alone hurt Tianyun, not even a little bit. The power of the deity, Elder Si-Ming was stunned. He never thought that Tianyun would use the power of the deity. The higher the grade of the star Dharma forms, the harder it was to improve the compatibility. After all, the heavens were fair. Giving such a high-grade star Dharma forms, one would need to spend more time to improve the compatibility. He knew this, which was why he thought he could win. If he used the star Dharma forms and transformed into the deity, even if it was a unique star Dharma forms, he could still crush it. However, Tianyun was not an ordinary person. When he was in the lower world, he already had the five-colored Emperor Dragon. When he came up, he only made the five-colored Emperor Dragon transform into the star Dharma forms. One could imagine how high the compatibility was. Although it was not perfect, it would at least have more than 80% compatibility, far surpassing most cultivators. With this little power of the deity, you dare to compete? Tianyun snorted coldly. With a stomp of his foot, he crushed Elder Si-Ming. The giant skeleton deity was only equivalent to one of the legs of the five-colored Emperor Dragon. One stomp could crush it. Just this body alone was already superior to most of the original bodies. Although it could not surpass all deities, it could at least surpass most. Bang! The giant skeleton was stomped into powder, and it couldn't be any more broken. This scene caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. What was an absolute suppression? This was an absolute suppression. Just like before, Elder Death Ming did not have the slightest bit of strength to resist and was easily crushed. What kind of power is this? What a powerful dragon! It's different from ordinary dragons. Idiot, this is a unique star Dharma idol. What did it mean to have a unique celestial Dharma aspect? That meant that it was above all level 6 celestial Dharma aspects. A grade 6 star Dharma idol is already heaven-defying enough, but this unique star Dharma idol is even more heaven-defying. They were shocked by the power displayed by Tianyun. A unique star aspect. Dengfeng clenched his fists, his eyes filled with yearning. I wonder what level my star aspect will be at when I awaken it? Level 2 or level 3? Or level 4? He didn't dare to think that he would be above the 5th or 6th level, and he didn't even dare to think that he had a unique star Dharma idol. He knew very well that his strongest ability was his physique. He could endure for so long because his physique was amazing, and that was why he could mine so fiercely. After Elder Si-Ming was stomped into pieces, He quickly turned into a wisp of soul that floated to the side and reformed into a physical body. At this time, there was not a single skeleton left in front of his chest. An existence that was said to have 9 extra lives was now completely annihilated in just a few attacks. As long as he continued to stomp, everything would end. Go! As soon as Elder Seeming escaped, he immediately turned into a wisp of black light and fled outside. He no longer had any skeletons to replace him. If he continued like this, he would die. As long as he spent some effort to refine a replacement skeleton puppet, he could still refine it. The price would definitely be very high. To have such a strong effect, the price would naturally not be low. However, no matter how strong the effect was impossible to refine it on the spot. It would take a lot of time to refine it. Therefore, what he needed to do now was to escape. When the time came, he could refine a skeleton puppet as a life-saving measure. Since you're here, don't leave. Etienne's huge body took a step forward and blocked Elder Seeming's path. It was impossible to escape from his palm. Elder Seeming's expression froze. He wanted to turn around and flee to another area, but he found a black shadow looming over him. Great Elder Yao Yuan will avenge me! Elder Seeming screamed as he was flattened by the giant palm. This time, he was truly dead. There was no way he would come back to life. Successfully killed Elder Seeming. Obtained 1,280,000 star points, Seeming's star, and Seeming's skeleton, able to block damage, calculated according to the degree of attack. The system notification indicated that he had successfully killed Elder Seeming, not just the puppet. This guy really took some effort. If not for the fact that his power was suppressed, it would have been really difficult to kill him. Etienne quickly returned to his original form and exhaled. He had finally taken care of Elder Seeming. No wonder Elder Seeming's reputation was so resounding. At the same time, he was also in charge of the mines here. His overall strength was strong enough. At the same time, he was also very tenacious. In a situation where he had many lives, he could exhaust the enemy to death. However, he had encountered Etienne. If it had been any other Star Master, even if he was in the middle or late stages, he would still be able to put up a fight. Even if he could not resist, it would not be a problem to delay a little. After recovering, the many slave Star Apostles could not recover for a long time. This scene was too shocking. Now, are you interested in listening to my plan? Etienne's expression was calm, and he still maintained his smile, which made them dumbfounded. This time, their mood was completely different from before. Previously, they did not trust Etienne and felt that Etienne was just going to die. It was fine if they were going to die, since the result would be the same anyway. At that time, they were prepared to die. Now that they saw how strong Etienne was, there was suddenly a little more hope in their hearts. Yes, we will listen to Sir's instructions. That's great. With Sir here, we might really have a chance to win. That's right. With Sir here, we have to flatten an area no matter what. All of them smiled, and the pressure from before was slightly reduced. But they will order us. Once they order us to kill each other, what will happen? At this time, someone suddenly raised a question, causing the excited crowd to immediately fall silent. Previously, Elder Seeming had almost ordered them to kill each other. Wouldn't it be even worse if they really did that? Chapter 1881. The most important problem was laid out in front of Etienne. This was a very important problem. If they couldn't solve it, they wouldn't be able to fight. One order from the other party would be enough to make them kill each other or attack Etienne. It was the most difficult problem. I've thought about that, but do I have a choice now? Etienne looked at them indifferently. They fell silent again. They would die if they stayed here, and they had to help. They might die there, but at least they would die freely. Don't worry, I've thought about that too. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't let you guys kill each other. They still want you guys to forcefully mine here. Tianyun looked at them and guessed, but they will let you kill me. After all, as your leader, I definitely want to see you kill me. It's fine if we die, but if they want us to fight you, they all felt very embarrassed. Tianyun was their benefactor. If it wasn't for the slave mark, he would have saved all of them. At that time, if they were to make a move against their benefactor, it would obviously make them feel very embarrassed, and it would also be unforgivable. Although they didn't do it themselves, they would still do it. This is the best choice. At least you are still alive, and I won't hurt you. Tianyun said in a deep voice, I will kill the enemy who gave the order first. No matter how many come, I will kill them all. As long as they killed the one who gave the order, their operation would be immediately stopped. After all, if the controller was dead, they wouldn't continue the operation. Since the controller was Celestial Terminus Lord, they had to kill him to completely remove the slave mark. Otherwise, Tianyun would help them remove the slave mark. This was actually quite difficult, not only because there were too many of them, but also because it was very difficult. The main reason was that there were too many of them. Who knew how long it would take for him to remove all of them? Okay. Since our benefactor has said so, let's fight. Kill as many as we can. Before we die, we can take revenge on these guys. Yes. Since benefactor has said that there is no problem, then we will listen to benefactor. We will let them know the consequences of deceiving us. Their blood was boiling, and they couldn't wait to kill their way to one of the cities and destroy it crazily. I know all of you want to flatten this place, but I have a rule here. Those who surrender will not be killed. Do you understand? Tianyun's gaze sharpened. They may be heartless, but we can't be heartless. We won't kill anyone who surrenders. Those who resist will be killed without mercy. Those who surrender will not be killed. Those who resist will be killed without mercy. Those who surrender will not be killed. Those who resist will be killed without mercy. Voices roared from below. They were all in favor of this statement. Although they hated the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land to the bone, it was only towards those who controlled them. Some of them were filled with hatred for the Celestial Terminus ancestral land. They would kill anyone they saw alive. But now, Tianyun had enlightened them. The ancestors and elders of the Celestial Pole ancestral land were inhumane, but they were different. They were humane. Let's take a rest and then set off together to kill our way to the nearest city. Tianyun scattered all kinds of elixirs, which were obtained from killing Elder Si Ming and the others, so that they could use them to recover from their injuries or to replenish their energy. Some absorbed the ores they had dug out. The primal chaos energy inside was rather dense. Absorbing it would be of great help to one's cultivation and recovery. The dang sound of mining suddenly became extremely quiet, as if there was no one there. The Star Apostles turned to inhaling and exhaling to recover their energy. When they had almost recovered, they stood up one by one, which meant that they were ready. Even those who had not fully recovered stood up and could not wait to kill their way out. They had been suppressed for too long, and now they wanted to vent their anger, so they naturally did not want to stay here any longer. Okay, let's go now. Tianyun took the lead and rushed out. They broke the door and rushed out one by one. It was very shocking to see hundreds of thousands of Star Apostles rush out in a mighty manner. The nearest city was called Jixing City. Since Elder Si Ming did not send out the message, the people in the city did not know that the mine had been liberated. They kept sending people to look for Tianyun, but they did not know that Tianyun had already killed his way to the mine and liberated the slave Star Apostles. They didn't expect that Tianyun would do something like this. In their opinion, he was not related to them, and did not come from the lower world. Why should he save these slave Star Apostles? Especially since they all had the slave mark, it would be useless to save them, and they might even stab them in the back. Therefore, it was not worth it to save them. However, Tianyun did it. This was the effect he wanted. He wanted to attract everyone's attention and bring them to a city. It was too slow to attract them little by little, so he needed to make a big move. He wanted to kill a group of Star Apostle Masters in one go and level up rapidly. The main thing was that he had enough confidence in himself. As long as it was not a Star Lord, he was confident that he could deal with them and kill them. Even if a Star Lord came, he would be able to fight them. His confidence did not come from anywhere, but from himself. Without some confidence, he would not have dared to do this. Instead, he would hide for a period of time and increase his cultivation level. He did not need it now. He just wanted to charge forward and kill all the gods and Buddhas. Jixing City. There was a group of guards on the city gate. They were patrolling lazily and did not pay attention to their surroundings. The celestial pole ancestral land was too peaceful, and there were no disturbances. Even if there were disturbances, the slave Star Apostles would be the ones to quell them. As time passed, they were almost abandoned. They just patrolled the city gate without any target. At this moment, a sharp light flashed, and the guards fell to the ground, dead. Some of the guards were punched in the head, and they did not even have a chance to resist. What a strong force! Tianyun looked around and found that one of the Star Apostles was extremely powerful. Even the stable space was almost shattered. When he looked ahead, he was stunned. With the appraisal eye, he even saw a name, Dengfeng. Could it be God Emperor Dengfeng? Tianyun's eyes flashed, but he did not go over to talk to him. This was a critical period, and he did not have time to ask. However, he would still pay more attention to him. Chapter 1882. The battle began immediately. Tianyun led the excellent Star Apostles and immediately launched a sneak attack on the guards. The result was unexpectedly simple, and they were easily annihilated. Even Tianyun didn't expect that he would be able to destroy them so easily. The guards were not vigilant at all. They were easily eliminated. It had to be said that the guards were really used to living a comfortable life, so they were easily eliminated. Kill! Tianyun pointed inside, and the Star Apostles behind him charged in. The guards outside the city gate were all eliminated. The only ones left were the guards inside, as well as the many attendants in the main city. Of course, the attendants were of a higher cultivation level, and there were also the deputy city masters. Their cultivation level was at least at the Star Master level, so they could not deal with them. There were so many Star Apostles, but none of them had broken through to the Star Master level. The highest level was only at the Star Apostle level. None of them had broken through to the Star Master level. They had too few resources, so it was not easy for them to break through. It would be good enough if they could survive, let alone break through. As the group of Star Apostles charged in, many of the civilians inside were dumbfounded. A group of Star Apostles with tattered clothes charged in all of a sudden, and they were dumbfounded by it. Those who surrender will not be killed, but those who resist will be killed. The Star Apostle at the front roared, and a large group of Star Apostles behind him followed suit. Their roars resounded through the sky and could be heard from thousands of miles away. They were Star Apostles, known as God Emperors in the mortal world. Just a casual roar could travel tens of thousands of miles. However, the main city was millions of miles wide, which was even more shocking. Tianyun took the lead and charged in. At a glance, he saw that there were many ordinary cultivators. Many of the local cultivators were lower than the Star Apostle level, which was equivalent to the heavenly venerables or gods in the mortal world. In front of a Star Apostle, they were naturally trashed. Similarly, they had not awakened the Star Dharma aspect. Only those who had reached the Star Apostle level could awaken the Star Dharma aspect. When they first arrived, they had thought that Star Apostles were cabbages. In theory, Star Apostles were considered cabbages, but not every cultivator could reach this level. He casually scanned the area. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, or even 100,000 miles, most of the people were below the Star Apostle level. There were hundreds of millions of cultivators, but only a few 100,000 of them had become star disciples. It could be said that breaking through to the star apostle level was a cut above the rest. This was only relative to the natives. To those from the lower realms, they were inferior. Even if they were star disciples, they were still trash. This was a form of regional discrimination, completely discriminating against those who came from the lower realms. They felt that the lower realms were inferior races. Even if they looked about the same, the difference in bloodline and talent meant that they were destined to be at a lower level. However, there was a gap between bloodline and talent. This was a fact. In the area covered by the appraisal eye, any random star apostle would have a star dharma form of at least level 1. Although there were fewer star apostles at level 2, there were still a considerable number of them. Compared to the slave star apostles in the mines, they were much more advanced. Some of the slave star apostles could not even sense them. This gap was too big. However, in Yi Tianyun's view, this should be a problem with their sensitivity to the power of the stars. If they had been born here, the outcome would definitely be different. However, there were no ifs. From the beginning, they had been sealed in the lower realms to fight crazily. Perhaps his talent was too ordinary, so he could only do this. It was also a way to save resources. Regardless of the motive, making them slaves for generations and making them toil until they died was enough to provoke their anger, and even more so, the anger of Yi Tianyun. Star G City will be the start of the war. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He directly flew to the center of the main city to kill the city lord. The rest of the slave star apostles were suppressed nearby and engaged in a crazy battle. Those who did not surrender were killed immediately. Those who knelt on the ground and surrendered were not killed. The rules were set here. Whether they were willing to obey it or not was another matter. Aren't these guys the lowly natives of the lower realms in the mines? Why did they come out? This is too disgusting. How dare they escape from the mines? Kill these natives who don't obey orders. Some of them tried to resist, but faced with such crazy lower realm star apostles, they could not withstand a single blow. After mining for so many years, their cultivation level might not have improved much, but their physique and strength had greatly improved. When they fought, they were like barbarian god. Their attacks might not be destructive, but it was not a problem for them to suppress the same level star apostles. Especially since they were all crazy and did not care about their lives at all. The other side was very afraid of death and had always led a comfortable life. How could they deal with so many lunatics suddenly appearing? Some surrendered, while others resisted crazily. While this side was in chaos, Yi Tianyun had already killed his way to the outside of the main city. However, before he could charge in, many attendants and even the deputy city lord had already charged out of the main city. What happened? Why are there so many lower realm slave star apostles? Did we lose control of the mine? That's not right. There is Elder Si Ming at the mine. He should be able to suppress them. Could it be that their slave imprint has lost its effect? The attendants were all stunned by the scene in front of them. They could feel the situation over there from afar. At the same time, they quickly spread out to cover the surrounding area. Their cultivation level was not low, so they could still clearly sense the situation in the distance. These trash, how dare they invade? If the slave imprint has lost its effect, then kill them all. Deputy City Lord Zi Xiang's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. Yes, we will go check the situation now and see if the slave imprint has lost its effect. A group of attendants was ready to go check the situation, but a figure blocked in front of them. There is no need to go over, all of you will die here. Yi Tianyun's figure leaped forward and transformed into the 5-colored Emperor Dragon. The attendants were all dumbfounded when they saw this. Before they could react, they had already been trampled into a mist of blood. They could not be more dead. Unique Star Dharma form. I did not expect you to dare to come to our star city. Die. Deputy City Lord Zi Xiang roared. The star Dharma form behind him surged, and a monstrous flood dragon whizzed out. However, as soon as it appeared, it was flattened by Yi Tianyun's foot. Even the huge main city was flattened. Chapter 1883. Rumble. In his pentashade imperial dragon form, Yi Tianyun destroyed half of the main city with a stomp. Many guards were crushed under his stomp, and their corpses turned into star energy. He wasn't afraid of reinforcements coming from behind, but he would be able to level up if he killed the main characters here. Under such circumstances, what was there for him to be afraid of? The deacons and deputy city lords here were all star masters and star grandmasters, and they could obtain a large sum of star energy after killing them. Who dares to invade my star market city? At this moment, a huge phantom burst out from the depths of the main city. A huge purple phoenix soared into the sky and enveloped half of the main city. The moment it appeared, countless purple flames burned over, burning through the void. The deacons, who were scared witless, were overjoyed. The Violet Flame City Lord has come out. We're saved. The Violet Flame City Lord is a wanted criminal, a criminal with a unique star aspect. He even brought a group of slave star apostles here. His crime is unforgivable. That's right. Violet Flame City Lord, quickly burn him to death with your purple divine flames. They cried out when they saw the phantom, as if they had seen their savior. A mere birdman dares to be so impudent. The pentashade imperial dragon, who had returned to its original form, looked at the city lord with a disdainful gaze. It saw that the Violet Flame City Lord was covered in purple feathers, and he really had turned into half a phoenix. However, it was only half a phoenix, but it was still a huge birdman. Yi Tianyun opened his mouth and sucked, like a whale swallowing. The purple fire was all sucked into his mouth, not leaving a single trace. Not to mention burning him, the flames even turned into nourishment for him. The Violet Flame City Lord was dumbfounded when he saw his flames being devoured. The deacons were also dumbfounded. That was a purple divine flame, and it was rumored that it could even burn through a higher-grade star aspect. Yet, it was devoured in one gulp, and it looked like it was enjoying itself? The taste of the flames is not bad, but it's still lacking. Yi Tianyun coldly snorted. Get lost! Flapping his wings, he smashed the Violet Flame City Lord into the ground, his fate unknown. The Violet Flame City Lord was utterly defeated with a single move, leaving the deacons dumbfounded. This was their city lord, whose cultivation had reached the level of middle-stage Master Xing, suppressing a region. But now, he couldn't even last one move against his opponent. The Violet Flame City Lord lost? Fear surged in their hearts. Wouldn't this mean that Star-Forsaken City was going to fall? Since the main city had fallen, the remaining cities basically had no power to resist. That won't happen. The Violet Flame City Lord possesses the Violet Flame Divine Phoenix Star, a 4th-grade star Dharma idol. They can be reborn, it's impossible for them to die. The deacons immediately learned of the Violet Flame City Lord's strength and were certain that the Violet Flame City Lord would be fine. Bear. The Violet Flame City Lord flew out from the crater with the violet divine flames frantically healing his injuries. Not only did he not weaken, but his aura had even grown stronger. As expected of a unique star Dharma idol, its might is extraordinary. But do you think you can kill me with your strength? I possess the Violet Flame Divine Phoenix Star, and I can be reborn as many times as I want. It's impossible for you to kill me. The Violet Flame City Lord swiftly turned into a streak of violet flame and slashed at Yi Tianyun. He refused to believe that he couldn't injure Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun glanced at him indifferently, and without using too much strength, he raised his giant palm and pressed it down, still nothing too fancy. He didn't need to use his full strength against existences with such cultivation. Half of his strength was more than enough to suppress them. Go down. Boom. The Violet Flame City Lord was stomped on the ground. His astonishing speed was enough to win against many opponents, but it was ineffective against Tianyun. The Violet Flame City Lord was stomped on the ground without any chance to dodge. "You can't kill me!" The Violet Flame City Lord flew up from the ground and the violet divine flames repaired his body once more. He was completely fine. Boom! The Violet Flame City Lord was stomped on the ground once more before he flew up and healed his body. Boom! Just when he got up, the Violet Flame City Lord was stomped on the ground once more. But not long after, the Violet Flame City Lord flew up once more and healed his body once more. However, the Violet Flame City Lord seemed to be in a worse state than before. Be it his recovery speed or aura, they were all weaker than before. "You're pretty durable? Compared to Elder Siming, you're more durable. It looks like you're stronger than him." Elder Siming said that he's invincible and undying, but he was still stomped to death by me in the end. In the end, you were still trampled to death by me. I wonder how many times you can persevere? Tianyun smiled as he stomped on the Violet Flame City Lord again, paying no attention to the Violet Flame City Lord's condition. The deacons were dumbfounded. The invincible Violet Flame City Lord was being beaten up? It was impossible for the Violet Flame City Lord to be undying. There was no such thing as an invincible being. As the Violet Flame City Lord continued to be stomped and healed, he would soon run out of energy. At the same time, the bloodline power in his body was also getting thinner. Every time he recovered, he would have to consume a large amount of energy and bloodline power, which couldn't be recovered in a short period. "I am undying." The Violet Flame City Lord crawled up from the ground. This time, he couldn't even fly anymore. The violet wings on his body were gone, and he looked like a featherless phoenix. It was a tragic sight to behold. This time, his recovery speed was extremely weak, and he would die after one or two more attacks. Then go to hell. In the end, Tianyun stomped on the Violet Flame City Lord and killed him. The Violet Flame City Lord would never be able to stand up again, and he would no longer be able to fly and clash with Tianyun like before. "The Violet Flame City Lord is dead?" They were shocked when they saw that the violet divine flames were no longer rising from the ground. Wasn't it said that the Violet Flame City Lord wouldn't die? Shortly after, Tianyun turned to look at the deacons in the city, and his cold gaze pierced through them. The remaining deacons and guards were scared out of their wits and fled. "Hurry up and run, this guy is a monster. Please don't kill me. I'm willing to surrender. I'm willing to surrender." Some chose to flee, some chose to surrender, but no one chose to resist. Even the Violet Flame City Lord, the strongest among them, was dead. What was the point of resisting? Die. Tianyun answered them with a simple word, and then he stepped on the void, and the remaining half of the main city was completely destroyed. He wouldn't accept any surrender. He could accept the surrender of those outside, but not those in the upper echelons. He would annihilate all of them. Chapter 1884. The main city was easily destroyed by Tianyun, and the central city of Star G City was reduced to ruins just like that. All the guards and attendants were killed, and not a single one survived. This meant that they couldn't order the slave Star Apostles to do anything else. The Violet Flame City Lord is dead. Those who surrender will not be killed, but those who resist will be killed. Tianyun stood on the ruins and used a loud and clear voice to spread in all directions. The power of the five-colored monarch dragon made his voice filled with deterrence. Those with low cultivation immediately knelt down with their legs going soft, and they couldn't move at all. This was considered light. If his roar had been laced with lethality, they would definitely have exploded from it. How could those with low cultivation withstand the roar of a Star Master? However, he wasn't that brutal, and he didn't have much intention of killing the native cultivators who couldn't control the slave Star Apostles. Especially those with low cultivation, they wouldn't be harmed. "The Violet Flame City Lord is dead?" Isn't the Violet Flame City Lord invincible? How could he be dead? None of them dared to believe it, but they were all dumbfounded when they saw the corpse of the Violet Flame City Lord. Tianyun dropped the corpse of the Violet Flame City Lord in the air, and anyone with a high cultivation would be able to see it from afar. Tianyun had been using a simple and violent method to crush the corpse so that it could be used as a signal to conquer Star G City. Not only that, but it also made the hearts of the slave Star Apostles tremble, and their fighting spirit soared. They didn't expect that Tianyun would destroy the main city of Star G City so quickly and even kill the City Lord. The City Lord had always been the master of the city. Since the City Lord had been killed, what could the rest of them do? I don't believe that he can kill all of us. I'm not afraid of him, and I'm not willing to be ruled by these trashy natives. At most, I'll just die. Some chose to surrender while others chose to resist. The resistance was still strong, and they all charged forward without fear of Tianyun. Die. Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He did not revert to his true self, but instead simply used his astral Dharma idol. A shadow pressed down, and a pile of flesh and blood was crushed. If you're not afraid of death, I'll kill until you're afraid. If you don't surrender, then kill them all. Tianyun did not show any mercy. He turned around and killed the local Star Apostles who refused to surrender. Like a meat grinder, he crushed his way through and did not show any mercy. He would kill those who deserved to be killed without any mercy. Along the way, not to mention the Earth Star Apostles, even the houses in the vicinity were flattened. Such a terrifying power caused everyone to be dumbfounded. They had witnessed what true invincibility was. I'll say it one last time. Those who surrender will not be killed. Tianyun roared, and his dragon roar reverberated throughout the entire Star G City, frightening everyone to the point that their faces turned pale. He really didn't show any mercy when he said he would kill them. Some of the people who originally wanted to resist chose to bow their heads in submission. Their bodies shivered, and they didn't dare to resist at all. My lord is invincible. Your Excellency is invincible. All of them shouted invincible, and their hearts were filled with excitement. Seeing how easily Tianyun suppressed Star G City, they sighed that they had really followed the right person. Even if they were to die in the next moment, they would be willing to do so. It was already good enough to be able to take revenge and slightly injure the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. After all, if it was before, they wouldn't even have the strength to resist, let alone take revenge. A single word would determine their life and death. The news of the suppression of Star G City quickly spread, shocking the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. One by one, the elders were so angry that they stomped their feet and threw their cups to curse. Where did this guy come from? How dare he attack our Star G City and destroy our mine? I didn't believe that it was from other forces before, but now I'm sure that this guy was definitely sent by other forces to cause trouble. Not only did he destroy our Thunder Shadow Palace, but he also destroyed the mine. Now, even Star G City has been captured. Could this guy be sent by our sworn enemy, the Divine Cauldron Ancestral Land? But that's not right. Even if the Divine Cauldron Ancestral Land sent someone to attack, they wouldn't send someone who had just obtained a unique Star Dharma idol, right? Aren't they afraid of dying here? Maybe it's an illusion. It's an illusion to deceive us. For example, using some method to suppress this Star Dharma idol and then release it, creating the illusion that he has just obtained the Star Dharma idol. What kind of method is this? Is there anyone who can do this? The elder felt embarrassed. He was really spouting nonsense. How would he know such a method? He had never seen a method that could suppress the Star Dharma idol. But if that's not the case, why would he attack our Empyrean Terminus ancestral land? What did we do to provoke him? He actually kept attacking us. They shook their heads. They really didn't know where Tianyun came from and why he attacked them. They had never thought that he came from the lower realms. From the moment Tianyun obtained his unique star Dharma idol, no one would think that he came from the lower realms. This kind of stubborn logic had already been determined. There's no need to say anything more. No matter what force it is, it's a provocation to us. Great Elder Yao Yuan's eyes were cold. The fact that even the Lord of Violet Flame City was killed proves that his strength is definitely at the mid-stage Grandmaster Xing level, or even higher. Especially with his unique Star Dharma idol, his combat strength will be extremely powerful. But considering that he has just awakened his Star Dharma idol, the compatibility won't be too high. But why did he awaken his Star Dharma idol so late? It's possible that there are helpers nearby. We have to be careful about this. Great Elder Yao Yuan looked at them and said in a deep voice, "We must send experts to suppress him. Otherwise, our Empyrean Terminus ancestral land's reputation will be tarnished. Based on this cultivation, sending the fourth elder and the third elder should be enough to deal with him. With the two of you working together, even a late-stage Grandmaster Xing won't be afraid. To be on the safe side, send the God Extermination team to ensure that nothing goes wrong. I don't want Lord Empyrean Terminus to see this place in a mess when he returns. We'll all be punished." Great Elder Yao Yuan swept a cold glance at them. All of them nodded. They didn't want to bear the wrath of Empyrean Terminus Lord. If he really exploded, even if they didn't die, they would at least lose a layer of skin. Great Elder Yao Yuan, don't worry. Leave it to us. We'll definitely eliminate these invaders. Elder De Hong stood up and cupped his fists. Especially with the God Extermination team. We'll definitely eliminate those invaders, no matter who they are. That's right. Leave it to us. We'll definitely complete the mission perfectly. Elder Zhu Long stood up. Both of them were top-notch late-stage Grandmaster Xing experts. They were top-notch existences in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. Chapter 1885. Tianyun had no idea what was going on outside, but he knew that the news must have reached the inner circle. He was waiting to see what kind of expert the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land would send down. After killing this batch, it's almost time to set off. Tianyun's eyes flickered. His current goal was to kill a group of higher-ups of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. If he were to fly over and exterminate them one by one, it would be too slow. There were so many cities. How long would it take for him to destroy all of them? The Empyrean Terminus ancestral land was quite spacious. With so many cities flying over at the same time, it would take countless years. Even though his cultivation was not weak, it would still take him a long time to go around them one by one. The best way was for them to gather a large number of experts and then ruthlessly destroy a group of them. This was the most time-saving and labor-saving method. This was his goal from the very beginning. If the matter was blown up, it would attract their attention and attract batches of experts over. Then, they would be wiped out in one fell swoop. Help me call a star disciple called Dengfeng over. He's the one with the astonishing battle prowess from before. Tianyun instructed the guard beside him to call someone over. The guard nodded and quickly ran off to find Dengfeng. Dengfeng was very easy to find. His previous performance had been very eye-catching, so it was very easy to find him. This was especially the case for Dengfeng. His name had already spread far and wide. With such powerful battle prowess, they couldn't help but be convinced. Soon Dengfeng was summoned. When he entered, he cupped his fists and asked in confusion, "My lord, you were looking for me?" When Dengfeng was found, he was confused. He didn't know why Tianyun was looking for him. He didn't know what he had that could attract Tianyun's attention. Could it be his brute strength? However, he only had brute force. He didn't have many other abilities. His previous moves seemed rather clumsy here. Compared to the lower realms, it was quite strong, but compared to this place, it seemed extremely ordinary, completely unpresentable. Therefore, sometimes it was better to just rely on one's fists, which might be slightly more powerful. If one's martial arts were not compatible with one's cultivation, not only would the effect not be enhanced, it would even be weakened. Therefore, it was better to just use one's fist. Using low-level martial arts was simply too unscientific. Yes, I'm looking for you. Tianyun looked at him with a smile. Speaking of which, you and I are somewhat related. You can even be said to be my senior. This. Milord, you absolutely cannot say that. You are much stronger than me, so how could I dare to call myself senior? Dengfeng laughed self-deprecatingly. If I were senior, I wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Kaiyuan world, Tianyun said simply. Dengfeng's pupils shrank as a cold light flitted through the depths of his eyes. However, it quickly disappeared. Seeing the smile on Tianyun's face, he knew that the situation was not as simple as it seemed. Soon after, he thought for a moment and said in astonishment, "Could it be that you're from the Kaiyuan world, my lord?" He immediately thought of this. After all, he had never told anyone else that he was from the Kaiyuan world. Yet Tianyun was able to tell that the world he came from was most likely from the Kaiyuan world. That's right, I am indeed from the Kaiyuan world, so I can be considered your junior, and you are my senior. Tianyun caught Dengfeng's killing intent in that instant, but he did not get angry. He knew why Dengfeng was like this. It was because he did not want others to enter his world. Milord, you really are from the Kaiyuan world. This is too unbelievable. For a moment, he could not change his mind at all. This news was too shocking. A junior from the Kaiyuan world not only had a nature-defying star dharma, but his cultivation was also nature-defying, far surpassing his own. Logically, shouldn't those who came from the lower realm be miserable? Not only was it difficult for their cultivation to break through, but the slave mark alone was enough to suffocate them. It is indeed unbelievable, especially to be able to see you. Tianyun looked him up and down. You still don't have a star dharma? That shouldn't be the case. Your abilities are so strong. No matter how bad you are, you should have a star dharma. This is all they're doing. Dengfeng immediately explained the general situation. It was nothing more than the same as what had happened to Tianyun before. After a slight inquiry about the slave mark, he was sentenced to the mines. At that time, he was even beaten up so badly that he was almost half crippled. If it were not for the fact that his physique was slightly stronger, he would have been dead for sure. So that's how it is. No wonder you haven't awakened a star dharma. Tianyun nodded. He looked at him and said, Then, Senior Dengfeng, are there any other seniors from the Kaiyuan world here? This is absolutely unacceptable. Please don't call me senior. I feel like it will shorten my lifespan. Dengfeng smiled bitterly. Being called senior by an expert who was far stronger than him was still too much for him to bear. Alright, then I'll call you Brother Dengfeng. That should be fine, right? Tianyun felt very helpless. This is acceptable. Dengfeng felt a little better. As for the other seniors, there is one, and that is the drug god. The drug god has a good foundation and a good physique, so he was selected as an internal star alchemist. His treatment is definitely much better, but he still has the slave mark. But this was a long time ago, so I don't know the details now. It seems that the drug god also came here. Tianyun nodded. It is indeed not easy for us to survive the selection of the God Emperor. Yes, the selection of the God Emperor. Dengfeng clenched his fists and said coldly, Damn the rules, damn the celestial terminus ancestral land. I have always wanted to exchange my body for freedom and then for the ownership of the Kaiyuan world. Who knew? His eyes were filled with killing intent. If he could, he really wanted to be like Tianyun and flatten the celestial terminus ancestral land. However, his cultivation was too poor, his strength too weak, and he still had the slave mark. How could he take revenge? It was already good enough to survive, let alone take revenge. Indeed, the celestial terminus ancestral land is really disgusting, so I decided to destroy it. Tianyun thought for a while before saying, since you haven't awakened the star Dharma power, there is a place here to awaken it. You can try it. In Star G City, there was naturally an altar for awakening the star Dharma power. They could not possibly go to the Thunder Shadow Palace to awaken the star Dharma power, right? All right. Dengfeng's eyes lit up. He had always wanted to try and see if he could awaken the star Dharma power, and now he finally had the chance. Immediately, they went directly to the awakening altar. This place was temporarily closed, and usually, people would come here to awaken the star Dharma power. Now that Star G City was ruled, those cultivators would naturally not come here to awaken. Go, let me see what kind of effect the first God Emperor of the Kai Yuan world will have. Tianyun still had some expectations for Dengfeng. Chapter 1886. Tianyun followed Dengfeng to the awakening altar. This awakening altar was much stronger than the one in the Thunder Shadow Palace. In comparison, the one in the Thunder Shadow Palace was much cruder and not as detailed. Generally speaking, the effects were about the same, and they could all be awakened. However, there were still some differences. For example, the energy here was sufficient, and there was a small effect of increasing the ability to sense the higher-level star aspect. Just this point alone was already miles ahead of the Thunder Shadow Palace. The main reason was that they thought that star apostles from the lower worlds could not have any high-level star aspect, so the awakening altar would be a little inferior. We're here, let's go and try. Tianyun gestured for Dengfeng to go and awaken the star aspect. Okay. Dengfeng nodded heavily, clenched his fists, and walked forward, feeling a little nervous and perturbed. He had always been eager to obtain the star aspect, and now that he was ready to obtain it, he began to feel nervous. He was worried that he really could not awaken the star aspect, and that he was only a first-level star aspect. He had always felt that he was very outstanding, but at this moment, he stopped. He hesitated. He had been so eager before, but now he was hesitating. The main reason was that he could sense the gazes around him. In addition to the slave star apostles, there were other local cultivators walking around. The awakening altar was in the central area of Star G City, so the local cultivators could still see it. Although they had occupied Star G City, they did not restrict the activities of many people. They only restricted them from leaving the city. Therefore, they could only bear with it, walk around, and observe the situation. Now that they saw Dengfeng preparing to awaken the star aspect, their eyes were full of mockery, and they felt that Dengfeng could not obtain a high-level star aspect. Under these gazes, Dengfeng hesitated even more. Dengfeng, what happened to your momentum of trampling the ancient sacred palace? Up until now, your deeds have always been spread in the origin god domain, and all of them admire your imposing aura of bravery. Tianyun said in a low voice behind him, if you are stuck here, it can only mean that you have forgotten who you were back then. Dengfeng did not turn his head to look behind him. Instead, he raised his head and looked forward. A sharp light flashed in the depths of his eyes, and a domineering aura surged out from the depths of his eyes, washing away all the years of forbearance he had endured. He had endured for so many years that he had lost the courage he had in the beginning. Now that Tianyun mentioned it, the domineering aura buried deep within him was released once again. That's right, I'm the first God Emperor of the Kai Yuan world. Even if I'm nothing here, at least I've never been afraid. Even if I didn't awaken the stellar aspect, I believe that I can still stand here. Dengfeng clenched his fists. At this moment, he was no longer confused. He lifted his foot and walked toward the awakening altar. As soon as he stepped in, he immediately drew the power of the awakening altar over. In an instant, light soared into the sky and pierced into the sea of stars. This ray of light was like a sharp sword. It pierced through 2 star regions and entered the rank 3 star region in one breath. Immediately, the surrounding cultivators were dumbfounded. He rushed to the rank 3 celestial region in one go? This meant that no matter how weak he was, he still had a rank 3 stellar aspect. However, all of this was not over. The incomparably fierce ray of light once again moved forward and broke through the rank 4 star region. However, it did not stop there. The light that could destroy everything continued to move forward. Finally, when it rushed to the rank 5 star region, it became extremely slow and could not continue to move forward. It was a rank 5 stellar aspect. Dengfeng had chosen a good stellar aspect. At the same time, he had fixed his rank at the rank of a rank 5 stellar aspect, an extremely talented level. At least in the celestial terminus ancestral land, only the celestial terminus lord could compare to him. A rank 5 stellar aspect. These lowly natives actually have a rank 5 stellar aspect. That's impossible, right? That's impossible. Doesn't that mean that he has already reached the level of the celestial terminus lord? How can such a lowly lifeform have such a strong stellar aspect? Something must have gone wrong. None of them were willing to admit the facts in front of them. In the entire celestial terminus ancestral land, there were still a few with a rank 5 stellar aspect. However, they were all at the level of the celestial terminus lord or the great elder. They were all at the rank of a rank 5 stellar aspect. As for a rank 6 stellar aspect, it was too difficult to obtain. At least, there was not a single one here. Otherwise, they would not have been crazy enough to try to rope in Itianyun. A unique stellar aspect was even more amazing than a rank 6 stellar aspect. However, it could not be said that the gap between the two was extremely shocking. The two were considered to be on par with each other, but there was still a gap. A rank 6 stellar aspect was very strong and amazing. It could not be said that the two could not be compared. A rank 6 stellar aspect could still beat a unique stellar aspect. Everything depended on the compatibility and the effect of one's own use. A unique stellar aspect had a great advantage. For example, being unique was a great advantage. There was no similar ability. A unique stellar aspect was very strong, but it did not mean that it was absolutely invincible. This was similar to a self-created martial art. It did not mean that it was much better than those martial arts that had been passed down for thousands of years. Everything depended on one's own potential and future situation. However, in terms of creation, a unique stellar aspect was indeed much stronger. Swoosh! With a wave of his hand, Tianyun slapped the noisy passers-by into a meat patty. He would not let go of this kind of gossip. There was a saying that went, "Trouble comes from the mouth." Since he had said it, he had to bear the corresponding price. A rank 5 stellar aspect is really not bad. Tianyun's eyes lit up. He did not expect Dengfeng to obtain a rank 5 stellar aspect. He had originally thought that he would only obtain a rank 3 stellar aspect. Now, it seemed that he had been wrong. After a while, Dengfeng walked out of the awakening altar in high spirit. A rank 5 stellar aspect, not bad. Dengfeng grinned. It seems that I have some talent. Isn't that for sure? You are the first God Emperor of the Kaiyuan world. The fact that you were the first to cultivate to become an God Emperor is enough to prove how strong you are. Tianyun smiled. Yes. It's just that this slave imprint is still not broken. Dengfeng shook his head. This was the saddest thing about him. Tianyun's eyes flashed. If he had failed, Dengfeng would definitely not have died. The rank 5 stellar aspect would have been used. How could such a strong talent let Dengfeng die? At this moment, the 5-colored Emperor Dragon in his body jumped slightly. It seemed to have some reaction. Chapter 1887. Tianyun could clearly feel that the 5-colored Emperor Dragon was jumping a little, as if it had sensed something. Previously, when he mentioned the slave mark, the 5-colored Emperor Dragon had jumped a little. Before this, there was actually a slight reaction, but it wasn't much. Hence, he did not think much of it. Now that there was a reaction, He could not help but wonder if the five-colored Emperor Dragon could help remove the slave mark. It was all thanks to the five-colored Emperor Dragon that he was able to suppress the slave mark. If it had not been for its help, he would have been branded with the slave mark. Slave mark, maybe I can give it a try. Tianyun squinted his eyes and smiled at Dengfeng. Come with me first. Let's try this. Dengfeng did not suspect anything and left with Tianyun, leaving behind a group of dumbfounded cultivators. The news of a level 5-star Dharma idol would definitely spread throughout Star G City. In fact, there was no need for word of mouth. Most people had seen it. After all, the awakening altar was in the central area. They could see the phenomenon. Perhaps it was not as domineering as the unique Star Dharma idol, but it could still be seen in this area. The unique Star Dharma idol was really widespread. It could even be said that many forces had seen it. It had a very wide influence. Dengfeng followed Tianyun to a cultivation room. He looked puzzled. He did not know why Tianyun had brought him here. Brother Tianyun, what's wrong? Dengfeng asked doubtfully. I want to try to remove your slave mark, Tianyun said simply. What? Dengfeng was stunned. He looked at Tianyun in disbelief. After a while, he said excitedly, Is this true? If they could remove the slave mark, they would really be free. They would not have to worry about being controlled. I have not tried this before, so I will give it a try first. Tianyun smiled and said, To tell you the truth, I do not have a slave mark. After all, we both came up from the lower world. You have a slave mark, but why don't I? This is all thanks to the unique Star Dharma idol. That is why I do not have a slave mark. There's even such an effect? It's really strange. Dengfeng was shocked. Don't worry, just try. At the very least, I won't be able to remove the slave imprint. You can try however you want. If you really can remove it. A hint of ruthlessness appeared in the depths of Dengfeng's eyes. When the time comes, I'll definitely kill them. I won't have to worry about being controlled. Without the slave imprint, things were much easier. Not to mention fighting them head-on, they would sneak up on them from time to time and then hide. By doing so, they could slowly whittle down the enemy's forces. Of course, the most important thing is that there are so many star apostles. If they can all be freed, then the celestial core ancestral land will definitely be thrown into chaos. Dengfeng laughed. When he thought of that scene, he would definitely explode. The Empyrean Terminus ancestral land had more than 10 million star apprentices after so many years. It was even possible that there were more than 100 million star apprentices. Some of them didn't have weak cultivations. Reaching the Star Master rank could be found everywhere. As for the Star Master rank, perhaps there wasn't a single one. However, just the number of Star Masters alone was enough to cause chaos in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. From a loyal slave to a terrifying rebel army, Celestial Terminus Lord would not be able to sleep well. Ahem, we haven't tried this yet. Don't be so hasty to make a conclusion. Tianyun almost believed it himself. They hadn't even tried it, yet they were already bragging so wildly. Even he felt that it was very feasible. That's true. I'm thinking too much. Dengfeng smiled embarrassedly. He had only thought that in such a situation, the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land would definitely be overthrown. Even if they couldn't be overthrown, they would at least be able to greatly damage the vitality of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. Let's try it now. We'll know once we try. Tianyun raised his hand and reached into the void. The five-colored Emperor Dragon in his body began to move. Then, a five-colored divine light shrouded Dengfeng. Immediately after, the divine light seeped into Dengfeng's soul. With a flash of divine light, the slave imprint on Dengfeng's soul quickly disappeared. In less than a moment, the slave imprint completely disappeared. It wasn't difficult at all. Success. Tianyun was stunned. He didn't expect to erase Dengfeng's slave imprint so easily. As for the consumption, it was almost negligible. This meant that he could easily erase all slave imprints and liberate a group of slaves. Yes, it really succeeded. Dengfeng's heart skipped a beat. He really didn't expect to be able to remove the imprint so easily. The nightmare that had been haunting him for a long time was instantly removed. He felt his whole body relax. There was no longer that disgusting burden. Very good. Now, let's start to secretly gather a group of slave star apostles and remove the slave imprint. Tianyun's eyes flashed. There was a scheming smile at the corner of his mouth. Okay, let's do that. Dengfeng understood what Tianyun wanted to do. He just wanted to gather a group of slaves and remove the slave imprint secretly to avoid being discovered by other cultivators. At that time, he would definitely be informed, and those elders would know. At that time, there would definitely be chaos. The appearance of an existence that could remove the slave imprint would definitely cause panic in the celestial terminus ancestral land. At that time, they would immediately send all the experts over to suppress them. To put it bluntly, slave star apostles were the foundation of their labor force. Now, regardless of whether it was expanding territory, planting spiritual medicine, or mining, they mainly relied on slave star apostles. The cultivators who participated in this were only a small portion, and the number was not large. Hence, if slave star apostles were gone, their resources would immediately be greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, how could they tolerate the existence of Tianyun? At that time, not to mention going crazy, they would go completely crazy. Following a group of slave star apostles, they would leave with a solemn expression. No one knew what had happened. Tianyun was not worried that they would leak the secret. They were originally extremely hostile to the celestial terminus ancestral land, so they naturally wouldn't betray him. While removing the slave imprints, he also gave them some plans. Everything was arranged perfectly by him. All that was left was the final push. Very soon, all the slave star apostles had their slave imprints removed. After removing the imprints, Tianyun heaved a sigh of relief. There was a little consumption, but it was not much overall. If he hadn't concealed the situation, he could really have freed a large number of slave star apostles in one go. The plan has been laid out, it's beyond my expectations, Tianyun said with a smile as he turned his head and looked behind him. He saw a group of elite experts looking at him with admiration and gratitude. Chapter 1888. The Empyrean Terminus Ancestral Land moved quickly, and soon arrived at Star Zero City. Since it took some time to gather them, it took a long time. However, no matter how long it took, they could reach the remote Star G City within half a month. This was considered an ideal speed. In fact, they could be faster, but this speed was still too slow. If they took half a month to reach Star Zero City in an emergency, it could only mean that the situation was very bad. In half a month, they could flatten Star Zero City a few times, let alone flatten it. This was not an exaggeration. With just a few star apostles, they could flatten the city several times in half a month without any resistance. The current situation was ideal, but it was only ideal compared to normal times. This was the consequence of being too arrogant. Since such a thing had never happened before, they were naturally very slow in dealing with it. After all, they thought that there would be no internal problems, and even if there were external enemies attacking, they would immediately know the situation and quickly defend themselves. However, they did not make many preparations internally, which led to an internal collapse. "We're here." Elder Hongda landed outside Star Zero City on a starboat with a group of experts. Behind Elder Hongda and Elder Vermilion Dragon was a group of God Slayer team members, who looked stern and murderous. The God Slayer team was the elite of the elites of the Empyrean Terminus Ancestral Land. They were all covered in black robes, and their cultivation bases were at the early stage of the Star Master level. Apart from the words, God Slayer imprinted firmly on their backs, they couldn't see anything else. They could only feel the terrifying and horrifying murderous intent. All enemies of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land would be killed. We're finally here. If that kid hasn't escaped, he's dead. Elder Vermilion Dragon sneered. He brought so many slaves with him. When the time comes, he will be drowned by them as soon as we give the order. He will find that all the slaves he brought with him have harmed him in the end. Elder Vermilion Dragon felt extremely refreshed as he imagined that scene in his mind. They were not worried about the lives of these slaves. If they died, they died. Who asked them to betray him? They would not kill these traitors, but let the slave star apostles counterattack and let Tianyun have a taste of what it was like. That's right, a bunch of good-for-nothings. We fed them for so many years, and in the end they betrayed us. Elder Dahong coldly snorted and said, after we deal with that kid, we'll make these traitors work for us to the death. Naturally, they wouldn't kill them. There was no point in killing them. It was just that this group of slaves had worked hard for them, and they would directly kill them. Not only would he be able to make an example out of them, but he would also be able to work for him. Why not? Well said, let's do that. With a chuckle, Elder Vermilion Dragon jumped out of the star boat and flew directly into Star Zero City. They didn't sneak into the city, but swaggered in, not fearing that they would be ambushed. In their opinion, what kind of storm could these pieces of trash cause? Tianyun was the only person he needed to be wary of. The rest didn't matter. Just when they thought there were no more problems, several beams of divine light suddenly shot up from below and condensed at a single point. After they condensed together, they erupted with the strongest power, comparable to Grandmaster Xing's powerful attack. The sudden attack caught the two elders off guard. By the time they blocked it, it was already a little too late, and they were sent flying. Even the team of God Slayer behind them didn't have time to react, and were hit by the divine light. We hit them, we hit them. The large number of star apostles lying in ambush were extremely surprised. After practicing for a period of time, they were able to condense all of their power into a single point. One could imagine how powerful the attack of hundreds of thousands of star apostles was when they gathered together. They were all top cultivators from the mortal world, and their control of power was no weaker than that of the local cultivators. When they gathered together, their power was astonishing, and they were hit in one fell swoop. It shouldn't have been so easy, but the other party's carelessness had allowed them to succeed. A bunch of trash. Not only did they betray us, but they also dared to attack us. Two figures rushed out of the pillar of light, and a huge shadow appeared behind them. It was a large star Dharma form. They all took out their own star Dharma forms. Elder Dahong's star Dharma form was a large golden snake, and Elder Vermilion Dragon's was a water dragon. Both star Dharma forms were at the 4th level, and they were of a relatively high level. Although they had taken out their star Dharma forms, they were still in a sorry state. The sudden attack caught them off guard, and they were almost seriously injured. If it wasn't for the fact that they had some abilities and the defensive equipment they were wearing, they would have been able to withstand the attack. However, the team of God Slayer behind them weren't so lucky. They were in a sorry state, and some of them were seriously injured by the attack. They fell to the ground in midair and couldn't move. Most of them were fine, and they were only slightly injured. However, they all displayed their own star Dharma powers. Just like the elders, they all displayed their own star Dharma powers. It was just that the level of their star Dharma powers was relatively low. All of them were only at the 2nd level, and the highest was only at the 3rd level. Not only were the team of God Slayer injured, but their real faces were also exposed. Upon closer inspection, they realized that there were many star patterns engraved on their bodies, and they looked like slave marks. The difference was that their souls and bodies were engraved, and it was difficult for them to break free under the double suppression. It was basically impossible for them to break free, unless someone helped them. The star apostles were shocked to see this. The famous team of God Slayer was made up of cultivators from the lower worlds. This made the local cultivators dumbfounded. All along, the team of God Slayer was like the god of death, and they were not afraid of death. They were proud of themselves, and now they suddenly realized that the team of God Slayer was made up of cultivators from the lower world. They were dumbfounded. The team of God Slayer is made up of cultivators from the lower world. How can this be? This is unbelievable. Didn't they say that cultivators from the lower worlds are very weak? Their worldview was turned upside down. They had never thought that this would happen. The important thing was that the team of God Slayer flew up silently. The only way they could express their true feelings was by crying silently. Only these tears were not controlled by the slave marks. The rest of them were controlled by the slave marks and couldn't move. They now knew why the team of God Slayer wore black robes. They didn't want the world to know that the team of God Slayer was made up of cultivators from the lower worlds. Chapter 1889. The local cultivators could not accept the situation of the God extermination team. Even the slave star apostles could not accept it. They had thought that it would be a good thing to be able to kill the God extermination team from the celestial pole ancestral land. How could they not be happy to be able to injure the God extermination team? This was the strongest team from the celestial pole ancestral land. Even the weakest of them was a star master. Just the number of people that Elder De Hong and the others brought was 8, representing 8 star grandmasters. Who would have thought that after removing his disguise, he would actually be a cultivator from the lower realm? Perhaps they did not come from the same world, but they had the same hatred. This basically defined them as friends. Since they had the same enemy, they were naturally friends. How could they accept that the God extermination team had injured their own people? The local cultivators could not accept it. They had always thought that the God extermination team was made up of their elite disciples. Now they realized that this was not the case. The God extermination team was made up of cultivators from the mortal world. They had always treated the God extermination team as the main force and heroes. Now they were feeling very complicated. Damn it, we have been discovered! Elder Hongda and the rest were furious. They had never thought that the God extermination team would be exposed. They had hidden it well all this while because they did not want them to know that the God extermination team was made up of cultivators from the mortal world. To them, cultivators from the mortal world were loyal and not afraid of death. Even if he was dead, he was dead. It didn't matter. After all, the members of the God extermination team had slowly accumulated their strength. They had seen some cultivators from the mortal world lock up all kinds of slave imprints after they had broken through to the mortal world. How could they waste such cheap combat power? Especially these cultivators from the mortal world. They had not been given many resources on purpose. They had slowly accumulated their strength and then broken through. Needless to say, it was difficult. But just when they thought that they had made a breakthrough, it brought a cruel ending. They had been reduced to the most tragic slaves and were even used as death warriors. Great Elder Yao Yuan, who had first suggested this situation, was highly praised. They all felt that his suggestion was very good. This kind of reserve force would save them a lot of resources. They would also have an additional group of death warriors. As for their own geniuses, they would definitely keep them and spend more resources on them. As men of sacrifice, the fact that their faces were covered in tears was the best proof. They were all crying, unable to control themselves. Everything they did was out of their control. They didn't know how many of their companions they had killed, but they couldn't resist. If they could, they would all choose to commit suicide by self-detonation. Unfortunately, they couldn't even commit suicide. They would become their slaves until the day they died. For a moment, the star apostles below did not know whether to attack or not. As the team leader, Deng Feng turned to look at Yi Tianyun, wanting to see what Yi Tianyun had to say. Yi Tianyun shook his head, indicating that everything would go according to plan. The current situation was somewhat unexpected. The famous God Slayer team was actually a cultivator from the lower realm. This was indeed disgusting. As long as this matter was publicized, the slave star apostles would definitely go berserk. His cultivation had broken through to Master Xing. Logically speaking, his status was astonishing. But here, he was even worse than a dog, and continued to be controlled. What happened to freedom? Everything was empty. How disgusting. How could you say that you would give them freedom? You can't even accumulate enough military merits to become a Master Xing? Tianyun stood at the highest point and sneered. From the beginning, the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land never intended to let these star apostles go. You wanted to use them until the day they died, and you never chose to let them go. They were stunned, but Elder Hongda and the others were not. They could only walk away angrily. I order you to kill him! Elder Hongda pointed at Tianyun and ordered the star apostles to attack Tianyun. Kill him! A group of star apostles rushed toward Tianyun, as Elder Hongda had ordered. They were going to kill Tianyun. The star apostles, who had been standing not far behind Tianyun, raised their weapons and charged toward Elder Hongda. The crowd of star apostles changed from attacking Elder Hongda and the others to attacking Tianyun. Hundreds of thousands of star apostles continued to rush toward Elder Hongda, and their numbers were enough to engulf Tianyun. Despicable! Tianyun yelled. Fight me if you can, don't give me such a disgusting order. Fight with you. Elder Dahong sneered and said, That's fine. You can have a good fight with these traitors first. After you survive, you can fight with us. I'll let you know how stupid you are when you go to hell. Tianyun gritted his teeth and dodged the attacks of the star apostles, while flying toward Elder Hongda. However, he was surrounded by another group of star apostles as soon as he arrived. He could not attack them and could only dodge left and right to avoid their attack. Ha ha, you still don't want to attack? Are these pieces of trash your relatives? Why are you so reluctant to attack them? Elder Vermilion Dragon and the others smiled when they saw this. In that case, you can enjoy it. Let's see how long you can last without killing them. They wanted to see this kind of scene. They wanted to see Tianyun's desperate expression. They did not know why Tianyun had saved these slaves, but they did not need to know. They only needed to see Tianyun being tortured to death, or to see Tianyun killing the slave. That would also satisfy them. Anyway, as long as they destroyed Tianyun's plan and made Tianyun suffer, they would feel very happy. After making trouble in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land for so long, it was the best way to make Tianyun suffer for a while before killing him. When they thought that Tianyun was struggling between life and death, Tianyun kept charging toward them with groups of star apostles. Oh, you want to charge over and kill us? Elder Hongda said with a smile. You are quite capable to be able to hide for so long. However, you won't be able to hide very soon. More and more slaves swarmed over and surrounded Tianyun. If this went on, there would be no place for him to hide. However, when they got closer, these star apostles suddenly launched their strongest attacks at Elder Dahong and the others, with Tianyun as the center. They attacked almost at the same time, including Tianyun. They all attacked Elder Dahong and the others fiercely. Everything happened too suddenly, 100 times faster than before. As a result, they didn't even have the chance to block it, especially when the distance between them was relatively close. A single attack was launched at them. Boom! An earth-shattering blow erupted, and the two of them were blown to the point of disappearing without a trace. Chapter 1890. After the explosion, the two great elders were seriously injured, and their bodies were in a half-crippled state. Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that they would be attacked by these traitors. When they were so close to them, they launched a series of fierce attacks, causing them to be bombarded on a large scale without even having the time to defend themselves. Under the fierce attacks of so many cultivators, even an ant could bite an elephant to death. This was the reason why they were so easily beaten up by so many star apostles, which made them feel very liberated. They had been repressed for so long. Although Star G City could help them vent a little, it was undoubtedly more liberating to be able to seriously injure these higher-up. This was one of Etienne's plans. He wanted to let them vent their anger, which would also boost their morale. He could deal with the two of them alone, but this way they would not be able to vent their anger. This was the only way they could be more united. If they were united, it would not be difficult to overthrow the celestial pole ancestral land. He still needed their help to resolve a lot of things. Hence, it would be easier to get things done if he allowed them to regain some confidence. Although it would expose the fact that they did not have the slave imprint, it would be exposed in the end. Hence, it was not a big deal to expose it now. Etienne quickly came to their side. Without waiting for them to struggle, he stepped down from the sky and crushed their bodies into powder again, leaving only their heads behind. Then, he quickly extended his hand and sealed their powers. It would be extremely difficult for them to recover their bodies. Elders, aren't you two quite awe-inspiring? Etienne lifted their heads and looked at them with a light smile. How does it feel to be like this? Your lives are already in my hand. How can this be? Don't they have the slave imprint? How did they lose control? The two of them were extremely shocked. All along, the slave imprint was what they relied on to make these slaves behave themselves. Now, it had turned into a counterattack, which made them feel very shocked. Well, I'm not too sure about this. Etienne smiled faintly and did not explain anything. Kill him, quickly kill him for me. Elder De Hong suddenly shouted as if he had thought of something. Immediately, the members of the god-slaying team, who could move immediately unleashed their strongest power. The power of Master Xing's early stage was released in all directions, causing the cultivators to kneel on the ground and find it hard to move. Grandmaster Xing was Grandmaster Xing. How could a mere star disciple compare to him? Die. Etienne stretched out his hand and crushed Elder De Hong's head. As long as he killed the one who gave the order, the slaves would naturally stop attacking. In fact, after killing Elder De Hong, the God Extermination Team didn't stop attacking. They continued to release their strongest hostility towards Etienne. Ha ha ha, it's useless. They are not like the other slaves. As long as they are given an order, unless someone else changes the order, they must carry out the corresponding order. Elder Zhu Long laughed loudly. Even if he was trapped, he would still laugh loudly. For him, at least before he dies, he can make a comeback. He can make Etienne suffer a lot. Is that so? Etienne smiled as he stretched out his hand. The five-colored Emperor Dragon appeared behind him, and a few rays of divine light enveloped the members of the God Extermination Team. They instinctively tried to block it, but it was useless. The divine light easily penetrated their shields and attacked their souls. At the same time, they started to erase their slave imprint. Even the slave imprints on the surface of their bodies were quickly erased. As there were many slave imprints, it would take some time to erase them. Etienne could only take Elder Zhu Long's head and quickly hide in all directions. An astonishing wind attribute surrounded his body, and they couldn't even touch the hem of his clothes. It was undeniable that they were very powerful, but Etienne was even more powerful. With the help of the five-colored Emperor Dragon, he could crush anyone at the same level as him. The slave imprints have disappeared. What kind of ability is this? You can actually erase the slave imprints. Elder Zhu Long shouted in disbelief. He couldn't believe that Etienne had such an ability. In their opinion, as long as one wasn't an extremely powerful Star Rune Master, it would be difficult to erase the slave imprints. Even a decent Star Rune Master would need a long time to erase the slave imprints. But now it was being erased at an even faster speed. Such a shocking speed was really shocking. How is it? Do you think it's okay? Tianyun continued to hide. Based on this situation, erasing their slave imprints wouldn't be too difficult. It would just take a little more time. Could it be that the reason why these slaves can't be controlled is because you've erased the slave imprints? Elder Zhu Long looked at him in shock. Fear filled the depths of his eyes. He was afraid that the celestial terminus ancestral land would be in chaos. Without the slave imprints to control them, there would definitely be riots. It seems that you're not stupid. You still know the situation. Tianyun smiled faintly. However, you should have guessed what will happen next. All the slaves in the celestial terminus ancestral land will be liberated. When that time comes, I wonder what will happen to the celestial terminus ancestral land. No. You can't do this, you damned lunatic! Elder Zhu Long screamed. He didn't want to see the celestial terminus ancestral land meet such an end. I think you're the lunatics. You'll have to pay for what you've done. Tianyun sneered. He waved his hand and shouted, "Unseal me!" Divine light illuminated the world. The slave imprints on the godly extermination team disappeared completely. Their attacks also disappeared. They were all stunned on the spot. They realized that they could control themselves freely. They weren't being controlled by force anymore. We're out of control. They looked at their hands and flipped them casually. Tears gushed out of their eyes. They immediately looked up to the sky and shouted, "We're free! We're free!" They roared continuously, venting the anger and sorrow in their hearts. Previously, when they were being controlled, they couldn't even shout, let alone control themselves. They could only be mutes. But now it was different. They were completely liberated and could control themselves. Look, the slave imprints have been unsealed. Tianyun saw the fear in Elder Zhu Long's eyes. By the way, there is another secret that I want to tell you. Actually, I'm not from any force. I came up from the lower domain. Now, you know why I'm doing this, right? Not only do I want to destroy you, but I also want to flatten the celestial terminus ancestral land. Chapter 1891. Elder Vermilion Dragon was in fear and disbelief before he died. He really didn't believe that Tianyun came from the lower realm. The lower realm generally had level 1 or 2 star Dharma avatars. How could there be a unique star Dharma avatar? The most terrifying thing was the existence that could solve the slave imprint. This seemed to have appeared to retaliate against them. After Tianyun appeared, everything would probably change. After all the slaves of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land were liberated, everything would fall into darkness. This was not nonsense, it was the truth. There were more than 10 million slaves in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. Hundreds of millions of slaves had been suppressing their anger for a long time. After all of them were vented, great changes would occur. The combined forces might not be able to suppress the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land, but they would at least suffer heavy losses if they fought head-on. Once they suffered heavy losses, the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land would definitely fall into crisis. With so many forces eyeing them covetously, the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land would definitely be occupied. If everything had been treated well, not to mention being given excellent treatment, this kind of ending would not have happened. However, there were no ifs. The matter was already a foregone conclusion. The Empyrean Terminus ancestral land thought that there would be no mistakes, which was why they were so ruthless. At the same time, they were ruthlessly exploiting them, wanting to save all kinds of costs. The Empyrean Terminus ancestral land would laugh at the other forces, thinking that the other forces were fools. What was the point of treating these cultivators from the lower realms so fairly? They could directly enslave them for their own use, which was loyal and didn't cost any resources. But now, a strange person like Tianyun had appeared, and no one knew that this situation would happen. Before Elder Vermilion Dragon died, he still knew the real situation, but he would die with endless regret and unwillingness. Even if Tianyun couldn't defeat the Empyrean Terminus Ancestral Land, he would slowly cause trouble everywhere and continue to liberate the slaves around. At that time, it would definitely cause chaos, causing the Empyrean Terminus Ancestral Land to fall into chaos. This was what he was worried about, and it would happen soon. After Tianyun crushed Elder Vermilion Dragon's head, he turned his head and looked around, seeing a group of cultivators looking at him in a daze. These local cultivators were dumbfounded. They didn't expect that Tianyun could remove the slave imprint. This ability was simply a godly skill. From their point of view, the slave imprint was something difficult to undo. But now, he was able to undo the slave mark, and did it with such ease. All of them were stunned. They all knew what this meant. This meant that all slaves would no longer be slaves, but would become free. Some of the local cultivators who looked down on them began to panic. What would happen if they were all liberated? Tianyun knew that this would expose his abilities, but he had no other choice. There were so many Grandmasters Xing, excluding those who couldn't move before. There were at least 6 Grandmasters Xing who were in excellent condition. Especially in a situation where the order could not be changed, he could only choose to break it, unlike the other slaves who quietly undid their slave imprints. Being exposed was something that couldn't be helped. Moreover, there were 8 star Grandmasters. No matter what, it was worth it. How could it not be worth it to suddenly gain 8 extremely powerful experts? Although they all knew that the slave imprints of the cultivators in the lower realm had disappeared, they didn't know how it had disappeared. Perhaps they wouldn't suspect Tianyun. With the current situation, Tianyun is sure that he can get rid of the slave imprint. Thank you, benefactor. If you have any requests, please let us know. As long as we can do it, we will definitely help you achieve it. The members of the God of Destruction team, who could move, came over and knelt on one knee to express their deepest gratitude. If it wasn't for Tianyun, they would have completely turned into killing machines. No one could stop them. Get up. I don't want to say anything unnecessary. I just want to ask you to do something for me. Tianyun looked at them with burning eyes and said, "That is to follow us and destroy the ancestral land of the Celestial Pole. At the same time, we will liberate the rest of the slaves. How about it?" The members of the God of Destruction team looked at each other and saw endless surprise in each other's eyes. Then they nodded and knelt in front of Tianyun. They said in a determined tone, "We will follow our benefactor until the end." Their biggest wish now was to destroy the ancestral land of the Celestial Pole. Since Tianyun had asked them to do this, they must have sworn to follow him until the end. Even if they had to die in battle, they would be willing. After being imprisoned for so long and doing so many things that they didn't want to do, they also didn't want to see the other cultivators from the lower realm suffer the same treatment. Therefore, they were willing to be the first to fight against the ancestral land of the Celestial Pole. Okay. Tell me the general distribution of the slaves, especially the ones that slaughtered God Destroyer team like you. Let us save them, Tianyun said with a smile. To conquer the ancestral land of the Celestial Pole, they would need many powerful experts. For example, the combat power of the God of Destruction team was very much in line with Tianyun's requirements. Perhaps he could rush to the ancestral land alone and destroy the main ancestral land of the Celestial Pole. However, if he wanted to completely conquer the ancestral land, he would need to occupy it from all sides. He couldn't do it alone. What he needed now was to occupy it from all sides. Only then would he be able to welcome the final liberation. Destroying the Empyrean Terminus Ancestral Land would be the best liberation. Ding. Successfully accepted the advanced main mission, destroy the ancestral land of the Celestial Pole. Reward: 10 million star energy points, system enhancement, prerequisite mission must be completed for effect. The main mission that popped up made Tianyun's eyes light up. It seemed that he had accepted a good main mission. It seems that the system wants to destroy the ancestral land of the celestial pole. Since I haven't completed the main mission, it probably won't be displayed immediately. Tianyun felt that if he had completed the main mission earlier, it would have been displayed immediately when he came here. It's just that I don't know how long it'll take to complete the main mission. Tianyun frowned. He didn't know if the reward would be reserved if he completed the main mission ahead of time. If there were no reservations, then he would really want to cry but have no tears. It would be a waste of an opportunity. He didn't know what the system enhancement was, but it was definitely something good. Forget it, let's destroy the ancestral land of the celestial pole first. Tianyun didn't want to wait too long. If he delayed any longer, he was afraid that other unexpected things would happen. He immediately started a meeting. He wanted to understand the internal situation of the ancestral land in detail. For example, he wanted to know how many other God of Destruction teams were left. They were all Master Xing after all, and they would be able to strengthen his side by a lot. It was a pity that only 2 elders had come. It would have been better if more had come. Killing 2 elders and the God of Destruction team would have been very profitable for him. Chapter 1892. Tianyun had a general idea of the distribution, especially the situation of the God Extermination team. The God Extermination team had a lot of members. There were almost 100 of them. This meant that there were almost 100 Star Masters. It had to be said that this was a very strong team. Ironically, it was made up of cultivators from the lower worlds. The strength of this team could not be ignored in the entire Celestial Terminus ancestral land. They were much stronger than the average team. It could be said that they were one of the best in the Celestial Terminus ancestral land. It was especially awkward here, especially after knowing the truth. Tianyun did not stop the news from spreading. He allowed it to spread. Moreover, he could not stop the news from spreading. Unless the entire Star Pole City was sealed, the news would definitely spread. The local cultivators had something similar to a communication device. They could send messages from afar to let the outside world know about the situation here. The fact that Tianyun and his team were found out so quickly was largely due to their communication device. After the news spread, all the districts in the Celestial Terminus ancestral land were shocked. They did not expect the strongest God Extermination team to be made up of cultivators from the lower world. This was something that they could never have imagined. It was actually made up of cultivators from the lower worlds. This was not the main point. The main point was that Tianyun was a cultivator with a unique star dharma. He had the ability to remove the slave imprint. He had even removed the slave imprint of the God Extermination team. When the news spread, it was what really shocked the Celestial Terminus ancestral land. This was especially true for the higher-ups of the organization. They were extremely shocked and immediately panicked. They had never panicked like this before, including Great Elder Yao Yuan. What's going on? He can remove the slave imprint? Great Elder Yao Yuan had always been unperturbed. Even if several elders had died, he would not have cared. However, this matter had truly shocked him. He almost jumped out of his chair. His face was full of shock. Yes. According to the news, he can remove the slave imprint. He was the one who got rid of all the slaves in the mine, including the God Exterminator team. The elders who were making the report were filled with astonishment. They had never imagined that this would happen. Everything was too sudden, too unexpected. There was actually such an existence. The most important thing is, why did he come to get rid of the slave mark? What did we do to provoke him? Grand Elder Yao Yuan was furious. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't think of any big problems. He carefully searched for any forces that he had provoked recently. But no matter how he thought about it, he could only think of one enemy. This mortal enemy was the Divine Cauldron ancestral land. Could it be that he was really sent by the ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron? The elder below said weakly. Divine cauldron, ancestral land. No matter which force sent it, this matter has already endangered the foundation of our Empyrean terminus, ancestral land. Great Elder Yao Yuan said sternly, I'll contact Celestial Terminus Lord now and ask him to return. As for the rest of you, move out. You must kill this guy, don't hold back at all. Great Elder Yao Yuan's voice was extremely cold. This kind of scourge must not be allowed to exist. They could all imagine what would happen to the Empyrean terminus ancestral land if they continued to let Yi Tianyun do as he pleased. Yes. All the elders shouted in unison, their eyes filled with fierce killing intent. Yi Tianyun had changed from an existence that was originally being roped into an existence that was wanted by everyone. Now that he had even asked Celestial Terminus Lord to take charge, the results would definitely be extremely serious. This Celestial Lord was that Celestial Lord. In the lower realms there was also the title of Celestial Lord. However, the difference between the two was not even on the same level. It was not even the difference between clouds and mud. This was the same principle as the Divine Emperor. In the lower realms, he was called the Divine Emperor. He was not worthy here at all. The same was true for Celestial Lords. The meaning of calling them Celestial Lords was completely different. Some cultivation names were the same, but here it was a completely new definition. In the end, those cultivation names were nothing more than the self-definition of the cultivators in the lower realms. There was a kind of random definition, thinking that they were the strongest. Especially the Emperor. A mere lower realm dared to call himself an emperor? When the cultivators in the ancestors' land found out about this situation, they all felt extremely disdainful. They all thought, such trash dares to call himself an emperor? Those who called themselves emperors here were not ordinary existences. Even the celestial lords themselves did not dare to call themselves emperors. Emperors were even more powerful existences. Report. At this moment, a guard rushed in from outside. Instantly, all eyes gathered on him as if he was being pricked by needles. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and reported with his head lowered, the sealed sky city has fallen. All the slaves have been liberated, and the city lord has been killed. So fast? All the elders were shocked. They had just received the news, and the other party had already taken action? It was fine that they had taken action, but the sealed sky city had fallen so quickly. Wasn't it a little too fast? The sealed sky city has more than half of the slaves. If all of them are liberated, it will indeed fall the fastest. Some of the elders immediately knew why it had fallen so quickly. It was all because there were too many slaves. It seems that they are now targeting the place with the most slaves and liberating them. The next area should be Falling Cloud City. There are also many slaves there. Report, report? Another guard hurriedly rushed in from outside, knelt on the ground and shouted, Luo Yun City has fallen, the city lord has been killed. What? They were stunned again. Hadn't the sealed sky city just been destroyed? Why was it Falling Cloud City's turn now? Wasn't the distance between the two a little too far? This was not the end. Another guard rushed in and shouted, Dingyu City has fallen, fallen? The city lord has been killed. Wasn't it a little too fast for them to fall into the enemy's hands so quickly? What's going on? Even if these cities are connected, the distance between them is quite far. How can it be so fast? All the elders were stunned. A guess rose in their hearts. Yi Tianyun was not alone. He must have a strong helper. However, in the case of the slave imprint, logically speaking, only Yi Tianyun could solve it. Could it be that there is someone else who can remove the slave imprint? Many of the elders felt their hair stand on end. This was probably the only possibility. If that wasn't the case, how could he be able to deal with the slaves in other cities so quickly? It should be. It must have been done by the ancestral land of the divine cauldron. The other elders were furious, but they were even more flustered. If we don't hurry up with this matter, I'm afraid our celestial pole ancestral land will. Chapter 1893. The guesses of the elders of the Empyrean terminus ancestral land were naturally irrelevant. What divine cauldron ancestral land? These were all nonsense. The ancestral land of the divine cauldron could be said to be scolded even when they were lying down. They probably didn't even know that they had been misunderstood. In terms of helpers, Tianyun didn't have any. If there was a helper, it would be Team God Extermination. He brought a few members of the God Extermination team with him and started to teleport. By teleporting back and forth, they could naturally achieve the effect of quickly eradicating enemy cities. For example, Dingyu City was on the other side of Stargazing City. To the elders of the Empyrean terminus ancestral land, Jixing City was between Dingyu City and Cloudfall City. If he went to Luoyuan City first and then to Dingyu City, the distance would be quite far. It would definitely not be so easy to get there. Tianyun, on the other hand, set his sights on Jixing City. After destroying Luoyuan City, he proceeded to destroy Dingyu City. With the help of the teleportation God Stone, the speed was still very shocking. In particular, he did not need to bring too many troops. He only needed to kill his way over and let the members of the God Extermination team suppress the various city lords or protect him. It was enough for Tianyun to release the slave imprint. In every city there were some powerful slaves. As long as they were liberated, this city would immediately become extremely fragile and could be easily destroyed. In the end, to be able to conquer the city so quickly, the number of slaves accounted for a large number. They could only blame the Empyrean terminus ancestral land for placing too much trust in the slave imprint. In fact, slave imprints were really trustworthy. They were usually very difficult to break, especially when there were so many of them. If one could be cured, there were thousands more waiting to be cured. Who knew how long it would take for all of them to be removed? Now that a strange existence had appeared, if Tianyun were to remove it as a whole, it could even cover the entire city. This was the benefit of breaking through to Master Xing. There was no need to break through to the middle stage. Just the early stage was enough to cover the entire city. Grandmaster Xing's cultivation was so powerful that he could easily cover millions of miles. He could even cover millions of miles. It would not be a problem for them to easily destroy these cities. At the same time, they would gain a large number of cultivators. Perhaps they were not absolutely loyal, but their goal was the same: to overthrow the Empyrean terminus ancestral land. Only a small portion of them still had the mentality of living one day at a time and didn't choose to resist the celestial pole ancestral land. They were used to being enslaved, so they wouldn't resist. In the end, this was the minority. Most of them were filled with unquenchable anger. Therefore, they chose to follow Tianyun and fight together. They would fight to the death to destroy the celestial pole ancestral land. Because of this, the reputation of Tianyun's support was extremely high. If it wasn't for the fact that their anger hadn't been extinguished, it would have been very difficult to deal with them. It would not be easy to deal with this small group of people. No matter which faction it is, the most important thing now is to get rid of that brat. I don't want the Celestial Terminus Lord to find that the matter here has not been resolved when he returns. If he comes to resolve it himself, the consequences will be dire. Great Elder Yao Yuan looked at them coldly. Yes, this must be done. They hurriedly nodded, not daring to be the slightest bit careless. Then, they all turned around and left to kill Tianyun. Great Elder Yao Yuan didn't stay idle either. He turned around and went to a secret room. There was a communication point here, and it was an emergency communication point. He went to the communication point, took out a token, and pressed it on the communication point. Then, he started to send messages. After a while, he frowned. This is strange. I can't contact the Celestial Terminus Lord. Is the range of communication too far? After a few more attempts, he gave up. It seems that we can't contact him. We can only rely on ourselves. Great Elder Yao Yuan's face was solemn. If they still can't do it, we can only mobilize that force. Great Elder Yao Yuan turned around and left with the other elders, heading to the area where Yi Tianyun was. This matter had attracted all the elders. They had to admit that Yi Tianyun's actions were really frightening. They could only come to resolve it as soon as possible. It should be said that they couldn't be slow at all. If they continued to be slow, who knew how many cities would fall? Previously, when Yi Tianyun killed so many cultivators, they didn't take it very seriously. They only sent 1 or 2 experts. Now, they felt that they were wrong. Let alone 1 or 2 experts, they had to send all of them. Yi Tianyun's side was also expanding rapidly. One city after another fell, and he also killed many city lords. All of them exploded with one stomp. He didn't need any extra strength. It's about time. They should be sending all their experts. This was the effect that Yi Tianyun wanted. Previously, he thought that he could attract many elders. Who knew that he had overestimated his situation? The other party didn't take him seriously. Now, it was definitely different. If they still didn't take him seriously, they would be courting death. This city is a little interesting. When Yi Tianyun arrived at one of the cities, he stopped outside and looked at the city with a smile. Lord Tianyun, what's wrong? The group of experts following behind him didn't know why Yi Tianyun suddenly stopped, which puzzled them. Wait for me here. Someone wants to receive me. Yi Tianyun flew over with a smile. Just as he approached the city, a tall seal was erected all around him. Suddenly, a tall seal was erected all around. Not only did it envelop the entire city, but even a large area of open space outside was also enveloped by it. I knew this guy would definitely come to Guiyu City, right? There are so many slaves in Guiyu City, they will definitely come. Elder Fan Yuan flew out and looked at Yi Tianyun coldly. He sneered and said, "This time, he has stepped into our sealing formation. Even if he has the Star Dharma idol, he still won't be able to escape. We didn't set it up for nothing. I thought we were smart, but we walked right into a trap. How ridiculous." Elder Yu Fan flew out with a smile. He was confident about everything. "Kid from the ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron, I don't know how you removed the slave imprint, but everything ends here. After I take care of you, I'll take care of your ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron." Another elder stood up. All the elders were gathered here, waiting for Yi Tianyun to come over. As long as they continued to attack the city, they would definitely come here. There was no problem with the layout. As expected, Yi Tianyun had fallen into the trap. Ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron? Yi Tianyun shook his head and said, "I don't know about the ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron." "Stop quibbling, you must be from the ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron. No matter how you lie, it's meaningless." Elder Fan Yuan coldly snorted and said, "You will pay the price later." Chapter 1894. The Divine Cauldron Ancestral Land took the blame for Yi Tianyun, but Yi Tianyun did not care about this. In any case, it was the other party who thought that he was right, so it had nothing to do with him. "Is that so? Did you really think that I didn't know that you were waiting for me here?" Yi Tianyun strode forward, and when he saw the group of elders, he smiled. They were all local experts, and the strongest was at the level of a late-stage Master Xing. They were considered the most outstanding existences. Among them, there were no less than 20 elders. Among them, there were no less than 100 deacons, who were around the level of Master Xing's early stage. As for those with other cultivation bases, there were countless of them. As for the slaves, they were hidden and didn't dare to let them out. After all, in the face of Yi Tianyun's powerful ability to remove the slave imprint, they didn't dare to let the slaves come. So what if you know? Do you think you still have a chance to escape? Or is there someone helping him? Elder Fan Yuan looked around. After looking around, he said indifferently, "Where's your helper? Go ahead and call him out. Let me see just how strong your divine cauldron ancestral land is." They didn't dare to say that all of them had been mobilized, but at least most of their experts had been mobilized. There were more than 100 star grandmasters and several hundred star masters in the late stage. This showed the true strength of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. They were very cautious, worried that the divine cauldron ancestral land would send many experts, which was why they sent so many. From their point of view, they had sent so many experts over. Even if the majority of the divine cauldron ancestral land were to come out, they would still have the power to fight. The cultivators outside the seal turned deathly pale. Among them, Dongfeng's expression was unsightly. He had not expected the other party to mobilize all of their strength. Against such a powerful force, how could Tianyun resist? Damn it, it's all my fault. Why didn't I stop him from going? Dongfeng swung his fist and smashed it heavily against the barrier. Dong! The barrier only rippled slightly. It was not damaged in the slightest. This sturdy barrier was not something he could break even if he fought for his entire life. His cultivation was too low, it was impossible for him to break this shield. "Captain Dongfeng, what should we do? Lord is trapped inside and surrounded by so many experts. I'm afraid he's dead for sure. Could it be that Lord is really from the divine cauldron ancestral land? Where are the experts of the divine cauldron ancestral land? Why aren't they here to support us?" That's right. If this goes on, our Lord will definitely be caught. They were extremely anxious and wanted to help, but they could not be of any help at all. Even the team of God Extermination couldn't do any damage to the protective shield when they kept hitting it. This shield was formed by the combined strength of many elders. It wasn't something that a few members of the God Slayer team could destroy. Ancestral land of the divine cauldron. Dongfeng shook his head. At present, only he knew that Tianyun was not sent by the ancestral land of the divine cauldron. How could he have the help of the divine cauldron ancestral land when he came up from the lower realms with him? This is all because of my carelessness and arrogance. I didn't expect them to move out so quickly. Dongfeng's estimation was still wrong. He had thought that the other party would definitely send out their experts, but he didn't expect them to turn out in full force. Dongfeng fell into a deep state of self-blame. He wanted to help, but there was nothing he could do. What should we do now? They all looked at Dongfeng. They all knew that Dongfeng was Tianyun's most trusted subordinate, and many things were entrusted to Dongfeng. Continue smashing. Smash it with brute force. Dongfeng gritted his teeth and summoned his star idol to attack the barrier in a frenzy. The rest of the people also followed suit. They had no other choice. However, no matter how much they attacked, the barrier was not damaged in the slightest. When the many elders inside saw the situation outside, they revealed disdainful smiles. "Where are your people? Why aren't they coming out to rescue? Could it be that they were saving this trash? If we really rely on them, then we'll capture you first." I don't believe that the people from the ancestral land of the divine cauldron won't come out to save you if I capture you. Elder Fan Yuan opened his hand, and the giant sword god star appeared behind him. The giant sword god star that soared into the sky emitted a sharp sword light in all directions, as if it could cut everything into countless pieces. As an elder, his own level was naturally not low. The giant sword god star was a level 4 Dharma idol, and its power could not be underestimated. Elder Fan Yuan wasn't the only one. Even the elders beside him unleashed their star Dharma powers. They were still vigilant, worried that there would be an ambush in the ancestral land of the divine cauldron. The two powerful elders that they had sent out had been killed, and they did not think that they were killed by Tianyun. It was very likely that they were killed by the experts of the ancestral land of the divine cauldron. Therefore, they were all vigilant, and on the contrary, they were a little lax towards Tianyun. I already said, I'm not from the ancestral land of the divine cauldron. Against you, even if I have helpers, I don't need them. I alone am enough. Tianyun stepped forward step by step. Facing the hundreds of grandmasters Xing, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. In his opinion, they were all a pile of star energy. You alone are enough? Elder Fan Yuan and the others seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. They looked up to the sky and laughed, tears about to flow out. After a while, they calmed down. How ridiculous, you don't even know what kind of existence you're facing. There are hundreds of grandmasters Xing. Do you think that your unique star Dharma idol is really strong and invincible? It's undeniable that your unique Dharma idol can suppress our Dharma idol, but the Dharma idol doesn't decide everything, do you understand? Elder Fan Yuan looked him up and down and said, Grandmaster Xing's early cultivation is not bad, but in the face of so many grandmasters, your cultivation is nothing. Elder Fan Yuan did not put the unique Dharma idol in his eyes at all. It was not that the unique Dharma idol was too weak, but that the unique Dharma idol was not absolutely invincible. If one's cultivation was too weak, then it would really be nothing. Actually, I think so too. The difference in cultivation is too great, it is indeed difficult to deal with. Tianyun smiled and walked over, not feeling the slightest sense of danger, but I really don't think it's a problem to deal with, you bunch of beasts. After all, there's no longer a need for you bunch of beasts to live in this world. You will only waste the resources of this world. What did you say? Elder Fan Yuan's expression was ugly. He waved his hand in the air, and a giant void sword cut through the void, slashing straight towards Tianyun, not caring about Tianyun's life or death. He did not control his strength too much. If he was hit, he would either die or be injured. Ding! The giant sword that was slashing down was forcibly frozen in the air. Tianyun raised his hand in the air, preventing the giant sword from pressing down even half an inch. Chapter 1895. Tianyun gently clamped down on such an overbearing sword. Elder Fan Yuan could not move at all. No matter how hard he tried, he could not move at all. This sword that carried the giant sword god star seemed so weak. Everyone was dumbfounded. Everyone knew Elder Fan Yuan's strength. He was at the level of a middle-stage Master Xing, close to the level of a late-stage Master Xing combined with the Divine Star Sword. His attack power was definitely far beyond that of an ordinary Master Xing. But now, he could not even cut half an inch. It was really incredible. This is the power you were talking about? Tianyun stretched out his hand and smashed the huge sword. Then, he looked up to the sky and laughed. I'll show you what real power is. I'm enough. Tianyun's unique star Dharma appeared behind him. The five-colored Emperor Dragon roared, and he transformed into a huge Dharma body. He lifted his foot and stomped down. The invincible giant palm pressed down fiercely. All the star Dharma bodies that emerged were crushed and turned into nothingness. Boom! The giant claw pressed down and tore everything apart. Elder Fan Yuan opened his mouth wide. When he wanted to say something, he was already torn to pieces by the giant claw. Even the other elders beside him became like tofu, looking extremely weak. They all died under the claw. The overbearing power spread in all directions, scaring the cultivators in the distance. This is not the cultivation of a early-stage Master Xing. It's the level of a late-stage Master Xing. They were all stunned. The power that Tianyun emitted just now was only that of a early-stage Master Xing. How could he be so strong after transforming into the star Dharma body? This was simply impossible. Transforming into the star Dharma body state would at most increase his power. It would not even increase his cultivation. This kind of ability was definitely something that had never been seen or heard of before. In reality, such a strange thing naturally would not happen. Even if his cultivation increased, it was with the help of elixirs. In a short period of time, He could explode with amazing power. It was just that they did not see Tianyun use any elixirs. It was really incredible that he could have such an effect. Even if it was a divine pill, it wouldn't be able to raise his cultivation by 2 levels, right? Tianyun naturally didn't rely on any medicinal pills, but on leveling up. He raised his cultivation to the late stage of Grandmaster Xing in one go, advancing 2 realms in a row. He had destroyed quite a few cities, and he didn't know how many deacons and city lords had died at his hands. The star energy he had obtained had exploded, allowing him to advance to the late-stage Master Starmaster level. In the face of so many experts, he rose up in one go and faced these bastards. Too scary. Quick, run away. They turned around and wanted to escape, but some of them found that they couldn't even escape. This barrier not only trapped Tianyun inside, but it also trapped them inside. Unless the Elder dispels the Great Array, the barrier will not be able to last forever. Originally, they wanted to trap Tianyun, but now they were the ones trapped instead. Tianyun crazily rushed over. With a single step, he destroyed an area, and all life within it was annihilated. He was vicious and merciless. Since they were so vicious to him, then they couldn't blame him for being impolite. This was especially true since the city was filled with experts that they had gathered, so he didn't have any intention of being polite. The 5 elements within his body burst forth. Flames that could burn the heavens, the indestructible power of metal, the crushing power of earth, the life-sucking power of wood, and the drowning power of water. After all the elemental powers burst forth, the city instantly turned into a living hell. A group of cultivators wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves, but they couldn't escape even if they wanted to. The elders wanted to dispel the barrier, but many of them were missing, so it was difficult to do so. Die. Tianyun stomped down again, and a few more grandmasters were killed. He also swept away the lives of a dozen or so star masters. As for those with even lower cultivation, they were swept away even more. It could be said that the experts that Elder Fan Yuan and the others had brought with them couldn't withstand a single blow from Tianyun. This was especially true when paired with crazy mode. Everything was like a piece of paper, shattering with a single touch. When Dengfeng and the others saw this scene from the outside, they were all stunned. They thought that Tianyun was finished, but now it seemed that they didn't need to worry at all. His Excellency is too powerful. This is the standard of a Star Master in the late stage. He is even stronger than the standard of an ordinary Star Master. Yes, how did His Excellency cultivate? Even with this barrier, I feel that I can't even block one move and will be trampled to death. This is too scary. Fortunately, we are in the same team as His Excellency, otherwise, the cultivators outside were stunned. When they thought about how they were in the same team as Tianyun, they felt really lucky. At the same time, they were pleasantly surprised. Tianyun was so valiant, which meant that they could win. At the same time, they thought about Tianyun's words, "He alone is enough." Not only them, but even the cultivators who were fleeing in all directions thought about what Tianyun said just now. Just one person was enough to sweep through everything. What Star Master? In front of him, he was just trash. Boom, boom, boom. Tianyun, who had transformed into the 5-colored Emperor Dragon, kept stepping forward. Every attack from his huge body was enough to destroy heaven and earth. He could easily kill them without the slightest difficulty. With one stomp, a large number of Star Masters were turned into meat paste. In a short period of time, more than half of the 100 Star Masters and 1,000 Star Masters were killed or injured. The remaining people were just some rats who were fleeing in disorder. God, is our celestial terminus ancestral lands doomed? Where is celestial terminus Lord? Is he not back yet? Celestial terminus Lord, please come back quickly, a group of cultivators wailed. If this continued, they would really die. How dare you? How dare you? An imposing figure appeared outside the barrier. He stretched out his hand and struck in the void. A level 5-star Dharma form appeared behind him. It was a divine beast that looked like a Kuan Pring. The invincible devouring whale absorbed the energy released by Tianyun and swallowed it all into its stomach. This allowed the surrounding cultivators to escape a little further and not be killed immediately. Oh, it also looks like a Kuan Pung Dharma form, but it's just a resemblance. It's just a lion pung with the blood of the Kuan Pung. Tianyun snorted disdainfully. The one who flew down to help them was Great Elder Yao Yuan. He had a level 5-star Dharma form, which was the Lion Pung star form. The Lion Pung had the blood of the Kuan Pung. It looked like a lion but was not a lion. It had a huge body and had inherited some of the blood of the Kuan Pung. Chapter 1896. Great Elder Yao Yuan is here to save us. It's Great Elder Yao Yuan. It was as if they had seen the hope of victory, and their eyes were filled with surprise. Great Elder Yao Yuan was the most powerful existence apart from the Celestial Pole Lord. With the bloodline of the Lion Rock, he could devour everything, including all kinds of energy. The energy released by Tianyun being devoured was the best proof. After Great Elder Yao Yuan penetrated the barrier, he landed steadily in front of Tianyun and intercepted him. His body, which was also in the form of the Star Dharma idol, was not weaker than Tianyun's, and the two were even on par. The lion rock that possessed the bloodline of the Kuan Pung was naturally not weaker than any other species in terms of size. Therefore, when it expanded, it was not inferior to the 5-colored Emperor Dragon, and was even a little bigger. If one didn't look closely, the two would be about the same size. The energy is not bad, as expected of the power of the Star Dharma idol. However, with just this little bit of power, you want to be presumptuous here? You're still too inexperienced. Great Elder Yao Yuan devoured the energy released by Tianyun in the blink of an eye, leaving not a single drop behind. Are you the Great Elder Yao Yuan they were talking about? Have you finally appeared after hiding in the back? I remember you were behind, but you've been watching for a long time. Isn't it a little late to come out now? Or rather, do you really not treat the lives of your companions as lives? You're really cold-blooded, just like how you treat cultivators from the lower realms. Tianyun laughed mockingly. When this guy appeared, he had already sensed it, but he did not expose him. Now that the situation was over and they were about to be destroyed, wasn't it a little too late to rush out? However, Tianyun knew why he did this. It was to ambush at the side to see if there were any experts from the Divine Cauldron ancestral land nearby. At the critical moment, he would be able to kill them. Who knew that from beginning to end, the experts from the Divine Cauldron ancestral land did not appear, and he was forced to come out. If he continued to hide at the side, then all the experts on his side would really die. What? Has Great Elder Yao Yuan been hiding there all this time? This can't be right. Even in such a situation, he is still hiding by the side to check on the situation. Great Elder Yao Yuan, isn't this too much? Look at the losses on this side. They were also aware of Grand Elder Yao Yuan's intentions. However, the situation had been dire. If they had come out earlier, this situation definitely wouldn't have happened. With just a few words, you've already affected the morale of my side. You're really eloquent. Great Elder Yao Yuan snorted coldly. All of this is to guard against your Divine Cauldron ancestral land's sneak attack. I didn't expect this group of trash to be unable to stop you. Not only did Great Elder Yao Yuan not regret it, he even called them a bunch of trash. To him, those without abilities were a bunch of trash. Since your helpers aren't willing to come forward, then I'll cripple you. I don't believe that they won't come out to save you. Great Elder Yao Yuan always believed that Tianyun had support, and it was the support of the ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron. Cripple me? Tianyun sneered. I just said that if you were a real Kuan Pung, I might be a little worried. However, just because you have a little Kuan-Pung bloodline, you think you're a divine beast Kuan-Pung? You're just like a snake. You think you're a real dragon just because you have a little dragon bloodline? What a joke. Arrogant. Great Elder Yao Yuan roared, and his huge body pressed down on Yi Tianyun's body. Great Elder Yao Yuan wanted to suck Yi Tianyun's soul and energy out of his body, but he also wanted to suck Yi Tianyun's soul. You're the arrogant one. Yi Tianyun laughed loudly. The five-colored Emperor Dragon still had that look of disdain in its eyes, ignoring everything. With a body of the same size, the five-colored power gathered at one point. Not to mention being devoured, it couldn't even be extracted. This stunned the first Elder Yao Yuan. Even a star venerate level existence would feel some fear when he swallowed at full power. Facing this five-colored Emperor Dragon, he seemed very powerless. Boom! Yi Tianyun's claw had already smashed down, tearing through the void. Great Elder Yao Yuan hurriedly dodged, but it was too late. The sharp claw struck down, tearing the lower half of the Lion Rock's body like a piece of paper. The seemingly tough body was like a piece of paper. Nothing could block one claw. If there was, it would be two claw attacks. Phew! Although the crowd was extremely displeased by Grand Elder Yao Yuan's words, they all acknowledged Grand Elder Yao Yuan's strength. Now, in front of Yi Tianyun, he seemed so weak, unable to withstand a single blow. They all sucked in a breath of cold air. Wasn't Yi Tianyun too heaven-defying? Why was he even stronger than before? Humph! After Great Elder Yao Yuan was knocked back, he quickly returned to his original body. His face was pale. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun's strength to be so strong. It was already showing a suppressive effect. If the Great Elder Yao Yuan had not retreated quickly, his entire body would have been torn apart. At that time, it wouldn't just be a simple injury. If his star dermic incarnation was torn apart, his soul would have been injured. Fortunately, only a small portion of his soul was injured. Otherwise, his soul would have been severely injured. How can this brat be so strong? Didn't he just obtain his unique star dermic incarnation? Not only can he turn into his dermic incarnation, but he also has such a terrifying cultivation. How did he do it? Great Elder Yao Yuan could not believe that Yi Tianyun had managed to raise his cultivation in such a short time. Previously, he had indeed been a star apostle. If he had come to deal with Yi Tianyun, he would have been able to kill him with one palm strike. However, they had given Yi Tianyun too much time. Now that he had raised his cultivation, he would have no problem breaking through to the star venerate realm if given some more time. Others needed a lot of time and resources to raise their cultivation. Yi Tianyun's cultivation was very simple. All he needed to do was kill. With a large amount of star energy, he could easily level up. Didn't you say that you would cripple me? With your current strength, you are still far from being able to cripple me, right? Yi Tianyun did not give the other party too much time to catch his breath. He continued to charge at Great Elder Yao Yuan, taking advantage of his weakness to take his life. The ferocious attacks filled the sky with an aura of death. Everything it touched turned to dust. Great Elder Yao Yuan's face turned ashen as he quickly retreated. At the same time, he formed hand seals and shouted angrily, "Protectors of the Celestial Pole Ancestral Land, heed my command and come to protect the Celestial Pole Ancestral Land." Rumble. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.